FanDuel TV's Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup is presented by Windstar Farm and by Keeneland.
Epicenter started the year as one of the best 3-year-olds in America, and he comes into the fall championships as the best 3-year-old in America. Then there is Cave Rock, a horse who is mature and has ability beyond his years. He will be a solid favorite in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And the heartwarming story of Tyler's Tribe, a horse who comes from Iowa with a great background that will tell you more about preparing for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. What do you call a rooster who wakes you up at the same time every morning? An alarm clock. Duh. A much warmer morning in the Commonwealth, but rain is coming, so a lot of the preparations taking place under the cover of darkness today. Welcome to Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup on site here at Keeneland Racecourse in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm Todd Schrupp on our set just off the winner's circle. Yesterday, people were still talking about it. Flightline out on the racetrack amongst many stars for the Breeders' Cup, but he's so good, he truly eclipsed everyone. Talking to an owner, and I won't say which horse he has, that's going into the Breeders' Cup Classic, he goes, I've never seen anything like it. It's almost as if he's bionic. Flightline is still a story coming into today, but we are going to see some of his main challengers, including Epicenter, who came out earlier this morning for Steve Asmussen. Joining us to talk about all these workouts that we have coming up, Christina Blacker. Any more thoughts about Flightline and that spectacle that took place yesterday?
Well, it was so exciting to be here, obviously, and to be on hand and to be able to share that with everyone. But today is a key day as well, because you want to see how he comes out of the work. We'll need to follow up. He won't do a whole lot today, as we heard from the reports with Joaquin yesterday, most likely just going to walk the shed row. But this is the day that the trainer, the veterinarians, everyone needs to double check him and make sure that that final work didn't take anything out of him. Is he still 100%? So these are the days that are still a little bit anxious for trainers. It's not until you get a little bit closer to the race that perhaps you can relax a little bit in terms of all of your work as the trainer being done and complete. Stories worth following up on today.
We have full team coverage for you. We're obviously here at Keeneland Racecourse, but we'll go down the 64 west of here and get to Churchill Downs, where Caton Bradar is here, Joaquin Jaime, Gabby Gaudet, and one of my favorite people that we get to have as part of our team this year and most years, talking about Rishi Prasad, the U.S. Sun, called him one of the most recognizable sports presenters on telly. We welcome to our telly, Rishi Prasad. Hey, Rishi.
Todd, that's a great build-up. Thank you so much for that. I am delighted to be back at the Breeders' Cup once again. Del Mar was brilliant last year. Keeneland, I'm very excited about being here. It's my first time at this racecourse, so looking forward to experiencing all that Keeneland has to offer over the next week or so. I'm standing outside the quarantine barn where it's relatively quiet at the moment, but the last of the Europeans, last of the international raiders arrived last night. I'll be catching up with some of the connections, hoping that most of the horses have travelled over okay, and I'll be chatting to you and Christina on set a little bit later on about some of the principal contenders for Team Europe, at least. Joaquin?
Hey, Rishi, good morning to you. Yesterday was all about the headliner in the Breeders' Cup, and that was Flightline, who was having his final preparation for the Breeders' Cup Classic. He had a 5-furlong workout. 1:03 was the official time that he was given. He also had a very strong gallop out during that work as well. And it was more of the same brilliance from Flightline that we have seen in California. It was his 6th work since he won the TVG Pacific Classic on September 3rd. He had 5 works at Santa Anita, 1 workout here at Keeneland Racecourse, and John Sadler reported to me earlier this morning that all is well with Flightline. He called today his chill day. He's not going to go to the racetrack. He said he walked roughly about an hour around the shed row, and tomorrow he's just going to be taking an easy jog around the racetrack. So, Gabby Gaudet, all is well with Flightline back here at the John Sadler barn this morning.
Great news there, Joaquin. Well, I'm outside the Chad Brown barn pretty much every single Breeders' Cup participant breezed yesterday. We saw most of them, but we did not see some of the turf workers. Rougier, Regal Glory, they actually worked in company, as well as Virginia Joy and Domestic Spending. We're going to be showing that work a little bit later this morning. But as you can see behind me, there's buckets, there's signs, pretty much everything that would be inside of the barn. What's happening today is move day. I just talked to Chad Brown's assistant and Baldo, and they're going to actually take these horses on a van and bring them to Rice Road. It's kind of an interesting deal. Rice Road is too far away for all of these horses to walk. It would be like moving apartments, but moving from one apartment building to the next apartment building. It's too far of a walk for all of them to go. So they're going to be taking 2 vans a little bit later this morning. But we'll talk to Chad Brown about some of those workers from yesterday. Andy?
Gabby, it's so interesting to see everybody leave the barns on what we call the front side portion of the track. I mean, it is Cinch is still living back there, and it's a bit of a ghost town. He will be making his move down to Rice Road after our morning show today, and wow, what a beautiful morning it is. I mean, I've got 1 less layer of pants, 2 less layers of jackets. I still have the ski mask, but that's just for safety protocol. It's looking great out here today. Obviously, the renovation breaks have changed. We have 1 break now. So instead of the break being from 7 to 7:30 and 8:30 to 9, it'll just be from 7:30 to 8. Cinch and I will be helping out our buddy Slammed, the filly and mare sprint contender, later. She'll be taking a jog after her work the other day. And we've just got a lot of action going on. But for now, let's say good morning to Kate and Bradar.
Hey, good morning, Andy. Like you, we are closing the track for renovations and harrowing right now, but literally a second ago, Dwayne Lukas just walked off the track on his pony, having concluded his last set of trainers. You would have to get up very early in the morning to beat him to the racetrack. At 87 years young, he's still one of the first trainers here on the backstretch, and his horse Secret Oath, who's tuning up for the Breeders' Cup Distaff, was the first filly to be out on the track this morning. We're going to talk to the coach, get some words of wisdom as he seeks his 5th win in the Breeders' Cup Distaff and looks to his 21st Breeders' Cup win overall. And Todd, just in case you're worried about all of us who are here, we see the first horse shipping out. Casa Creed is heading out to Lexington and 10 o'clock this morning, the first of a fleet of the 10 horses that'll be shipping over. And I won't be too far behind them. But first, Secret Oath may have a workout tomorrow morning.
I may be passing you on the 64. They're racing later today at Churchill. I'm going over with a friend to be a fan at the races, but I'm probably going to be dealing with a sloppy racetrack. How serious is this rain coming in, and does it change the plans for everyone? Is that why we're seeing horses come out earlier?
Well, it's pretty significant, but it's not coming until about 10 o'clock, which is right when training is going to wrap up, thankfully. So Mother Nature definitely being kind to those final few workers. I think if you were looking at the forecast earlier this week and planning to work today, you might have wanted to back up to Saturday or to Friday if that made sense with your training regime. But as the forecast developed, it looked like it was going to be clear for the morning. So Steve Asmussen, a lot of his horses, they're able to stay on the schedule that they want to. But tomorrow morning will be light training for the most part. If we do have a sloppy track, depending on how much rain we get throughout the afternoon, which it is supposed to be significant, I'm guessing we'll just see a lot of jogging tomorrow.
Well, as Rishi told us at the top of the show, the foreign horses are here. There's going to be a lot of breaking news. We followed up with Flightline yesterday. For more on all the news surrounding the Breeders' Cup, Joaquin Hyman.
And Todd, there's always a point during Breeders' Cup week when it really starts to feel like Breeders' Cup to me, and that's when all the out-of-towners come to the host track, and that's what we're going to have later on today. All the horses from Southern California are going to be arriving here in Lexington, Kentucky at Keeneland Racecourse. A lot of horses from California and a lot of notable horses from Southern California in all these respected divisions are going to be here. All 5 of Bob Baffert's horses that he pre-entered in the Breeders' Cup are going to be on that plane. His team led by Taba, the 3-year-old in the Breeders' Cup Classic. You have the 2-year-old Cave Rock in the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and then Laurel River in the Dirt Mile. George Papadromo has his horse who punched his ticket to the Breeders' Cup Sprint by winning the challenge race in the Bing Crosby earlier this summer at Del Mar. That is American Theorem, who's going to be competing in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And then Michael McCarthy is going to have Cece looking to repeat in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. She is going to be on that plane from Southern California as well. Also, a bit of news, we have an unexpected worker that is going to be coming up in just a little bit. John Sadler told me just a few moments ago that Edgeway, who was scheduled to have her final workout for the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Sprint on Tuesday, Edgeway is going to actually have her final workout for the Breeders' Cup today because of that impending rain that we have coming up. So look for Edgeway on the racetrack at 8 a.m. for her final workout for the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Sprint. So that's the very latest on the arrivals. Rishi, will send it back to you for the international report.
Joaquin, thank you very much. Yes, I've just actually bumped into Tony Proctor, who travelled horses over for John Gosden, Nashwa and Mishrif being the two principal horses. And Tony was telling me that the horses have arrived safely. The rest of the Europeans all came over late last night. I spoke to Aidan O'Brien's team, Kevin Buckley, who represents Aidan O'Brien. He told me that the horses came over yesterday during the day, and they've all arrived safe and sound. I saw Pat Keating, who travels the horses for Aidan O'Brien, recognisable to so many of you, who's travelled all over the world with Aidan's horses. And Pat says they're all in good order, looking forward to the week ahead. Aidan's due to arrive in about a day or so. And, of course, Charlie Appleby, who has a very strong team for the Godolphin horses, and he was telling me yesterday when I spoke to him that the horses arrived yesterday. He had a report that they all arrived safe and sound. They're all in good health. Charlie due to arrive in a couple of days' time. Very exciting for all the international horses, particularly because we believe we've got a strong team as we head back to Todd and Christina.
Are they ever lacking confidence coming over from Europe?
They do have a strong team. Even if it was just Charlie Appleby, you'd say we have a strong team.
We have to say that America counters with a strong team from the Asmussen barn. We're going to get to Epicenter, his big chance in the Breeders' Cup Classic. But let's start in the Longines Breeders' Cup Distaff, where the horses really come to hand. Typical of a 3-year-old getting better in the fall of their campaign. Society has been dominant in her last 2 starts now. One was at Charlestown, but then she moved up in the Grade 1 Cotillion and won with ease. She was out this morning and going a half mile in 49-3.
This is typical of her. I've taken a look at some of her training. She jumps onto the bridle. She grabs the bit to start. She's really tough in the initial stages of her work, and she does this kind of lean out on the turn a little bit. She's done that in her last couple of works. This is her, and she's just a strong filly. She's a daughter of Gunrunner. She's very forward. She's a speedster. You would expect this type of work from a horse like this. She's on the engine in her races. She's on the engine in the morning. But bear in mind, Steve Asmussen is not one to work his horses fast. So you can see this rider's going to keep that good, strong hold throughout the work. He doesn't want to let her do too much because that's not the program. She probably doesn't need company today or ever because she's so forward and so sharp. And he's still trying to throttle her down, really, not even asking for much more on the gallop out because, again, this is that final work. You don't want to do too much. She is the type that would do too much if you allow it.
She did start her career at Keeneland under trainer Wayne Mackey. She broke her maiden in her debut at Keeneland at the fall meet last year, and now she's turned into an outstanding 3-year-old filly for trainer Steve Asmussen. Let's turn our attention now to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and this is a look earlier today at Grand Love.
Yeah, Grand Love, another daughter of Gunrunner. There's a theme here from the Asmussen barn. She broke her maiden first time out. She followed that up with a 3rd place effort in the Pocahontas. She really pops from the gate in her races. She has some good early speed, and she's a good workhorse as well. She's a little bit kinder to handle than Society. You can see she's definitely on the bridle. The rider has good contact with her mouth, and as dark as it is, it looks like she's going pretty easily in this work. I've noticed in some of her works in the past, she does get a little bit kinder in the late stages. She kind of settles, nice lead change right as they turn for home. And here you can see the rider is able to relax just a little bit. Again, a slow and easy work, 50-1. This is typical Steve Asmussen. He doesn't do too much at any point in a lot of his workers, but especially into that last race coming into the Breeders' Cup. She's well handled at this stage. Really, no news is good news for Grand Love today. Much of the same. In the Pocahontas, they didn't go very quick early. She was on the front end. I thought she probably should have finished up a little bit better based on how easy those early fractions were. She does need to improve a little bit, I think, so, against some of the other heavy hitters in this division.
Well, I would say it's the right race. It seems to be wide open. The NetJets Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, part of Future Stars Friday at the Breeders' Cup. That is Grand Love for trainer Steve Asmussen. A lot of big horses in the Steve Asmussen barn, but Epicenter certainly could be at the top of the list. He has done that in his 3-year-old campaign. as we watched him down in Louisiana become such a good horse throughout the year, and he looked magnificent earlier this morning here at Keeneland, working a very easy half mile.
He knows it's work day. Overall, he seems like a pretty kind horse if you look at some of his gallops, but he does also jump onto the bridle Bose's neck pretty hard as he begins his work. So you can see him kind of hanging on the bit a little bit there. The rider's just going to choke up on those reins to make sure he has a good hold of him. Bear in mind that as long of a campaign and a good campaign that Epicenter had as a 3-year-old, he has not run since August 27th, since that victory in the Travers. Steve Asmussen electing to train him up to the Breeders' Cup this year. And so for that reason, his training is so important. You look at the page that we have in terms of the works, those works are coming each and every week. He did have a work on September 10th, so 8 works, including today, coming into the Breeders' Cup. And he's so smart, this horse. As soon as he squares up on the turn, he switches leads. Now you have some kind of light contact with his mouth. He knows his job, he knows what to do, and that's really the mark of a good horse in terms of putting it all together as a young one. You have to not only have the physical prowess, but you also need to have the mental ability as well. Opens up his stride just a touch in the late stages of the work. We'll see the lead change again as they come into the turn, and just an easy gallop out 50-4. Again, right on the money for what Steve wants in that final work.
Dominated the Louisiana route to the Kentucky Derby, then he was second, excruciatingly close, beaten 3/4 of a length in the Kentucky Derby, second in the Preakness, and then rebounded with a win in the Jim Dandy and a huge win in the Grade 1 Travers. Epicenter, the 3-year-old, in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, taking on his older counterparts. First time he'll go up against older horses, and what a field he has to take on. But what a resume he's put together.
5-time stakes winner, including the Run Happy Travers, that Grade 1 victory. And I think that's interesting because, you know, you look at his overall resume and the strength of schedule, and as well as he performed through the Triple Crown, he does only have 1 Grade 1. So I think if you're considering this, the ownership group of Taiba having 2 Grade 1s, you look at those two head-to-head in the Classic. If we remove Flightline from the conversation, I think the Taiba camp is still hoping that they might have a fighting chance as this 3-year-old championship.
I think a lot of it is going to be the eye test. So many people liked Epicenter from the beginning. He seems to have held his form and improved as well. So it will be an interesting vote. But what happens in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic will determine a lot of things. Horse of the Year and obviously that 3-year-old division as well. Let's check in with Andy B. on Cone.
Todd, right in front of me here is Clairiere, our Breeders' Cup Distaff contender. She's going to just gallop an easy mile today. Had the opportunity to speak to trainer Steve Asmussen, and she's just apparently a very easy horse to gallop. She's, as you can see, just so relaxed. She knows the drill. She's going to back up to about the top of the lane, and they're just going to gallop her around nice and easy. She's just as relaxed as can be. You just know she knows her routine. She has her job. She saves her energy for her races. And, man, she does look so good, Todd.
And that was not the case last time out. She had problems at the starting gate in the personal ends, and I think a lot of people forget she had back-to-back wins over Malathot, who may ultimately be the favorite in the Longines Breeders' Cup Distaff, and then it just fell apart for her in the personal ensign. Shouldn't we cross that race out and look at Clairiere as a serious contender in the Longines Breeders' Cup Distaff?
I think we have to, and I think it's happened to her pretty often. I think that's such a strong division that she does get forgotten about a little bit, and we end up with some good prices on her. So if you like Clairiere, don't jump off the bandwagon right now. She has every bit of the ability of the others. She's also a daughter of Curlin. This is really Curlin's distaff, isn't it, when you consider the big heavy hitters coming into the race. And I like the fact that she's had plenty of time here at Keeneland. Steve Asmussen did that in the Breeders' Cup last year, shipping in early to Del Mar. She's so relaxed and she's so settled because she's been here for the better part of a month.
I'm thinking Gunrunner should hold a family reunion at the Breeders' Cup. The next horse we're going to look at is Echo Zulu, out on the track preparing for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. FanDuel TV will be the exclusive place to see the first 2 championship races on Saturday, and one of them is the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. Echo Zulu came into the year off a brilliant 2-year-old filly campaign, dominated the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies last year at Del Mar, and then it looked like some distance limitations. But overall, now she's in the sprint. Do you think she improved very much from her 2-year-old to 3-year-old season?
Well, I think she still has the opportunity to improve into her 3-year-old season now that you're more committed to keeping her around 1 turn. I think last year, because she was so forward, because she was so fast and so much more mature than her contemporaries, she was able to get the 2 turns and to beat them in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Now that some of the others of the season have started to catch up with her, those distance limitations do come into play. So cutting her back to 1 turn and having the ability to train her differently, not training her to stretch out, not training her to try and ration that speed, training her to use it as her weapon. Let her go for it, let her be on the lead, and let her try to run them into the ground. This is where she fits, I think, moving forward for the rest of her career. So yes, I do think there's still some room for improvement now that you have her niche and you don't feel like you need to try and change who she is and what she's best at.
The Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint at 7 furlongs, and to Christina's point, they let Echo Zulu roll last time on the dogwood. She took the field gate to wire, going 7 furlongs. Interesting horse who will be a price. Only at the Breeders' Cup could you get a price on a horse like Echo Zulu, but it's, again, speaking to the depth of each and every division. Echo Zulu going around the track here at Keeneland. So, Christina, we often talk about this, and look, we're at the Breeders' Cup. They all have ability. But when a 2-year-old works with an older horse, it's usually a really big compliment to the 2-year-old. So we had that yesterday. I want to go back to a turf work that we're going to take a look at. It's Major Dude, who is preparing for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, working with the older mate, Annapolis. What'd you think of this?
I thought it was a very good work for them both. So Annapolis, a 3-year-old, and they worked together last week as well. This is not a new pairing from Todd Pletcher's barn. We've seen him match these horses up in the mornings pretty often. He did elect to work the fillies and mares for the distaff separately, but he keeps this pair together, and that tells you a lot about their ability. Major Dude, the 2-year-old, is along the inside. To the outside, you have Annapolis. Annapolis is a horse that's very forward. He does a lot of his running kind of out there and on the engine, and he's going to push Major Dude a little bit here to keep up. You see as they come around the dogs, around the cones a little bit, just for a second there, Major Dude gets a little lost. And that happens a lot with horses. You're all the way out into the middle of the turf course. Once he switches leads, he has no problem keeping stride, pairing up. And this is another nice, easy work. They picked it up a little bit around the turn. They pick it up just a touch through the wire. Again, finish through the wire. I like the way Annapolis kind of reached his neck out there to finish. He's going to switch leads, and they'll wrap up this work together. Heads up for them both, and absolutely upgrade Major Dude because he can keep up with an older horse.
Yesterday at Keeneland, Major Dude and Annapolis in company. Caravel, a horse who keeps trying in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Didn't go well last year, ended up finishing last in a field of 12. Caravel is coming off a win in the Franklin at Keeneland, so has already traveled over this turf course, going the distance that Caravel will face in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. This is yesterday. Caravel working a half mile over the grass at Keeneland.
1 for 1 on the course, 7 for 11 at the distance. Had her head cocked out a little bit in that work coming around the turn. Don't always love to see that, but I think it's also just by nature of having to work so far out around the cones and around the dogs there. She's one that really likes to get it on in the mornings. I've watched some of her other works where she was a little bit more spirited. This is maybe not as sharp or as energetic as I've seen her in the past, but they did keep her nice and relaxed into this work, and it was okay. It wasn't, I think, her best work that I've seen, but still a very good one coming into the Breeders' Cup when you consider what you want. A slower time, but bear in mind how far she is out off the rail there. 51 flat for the 4 furlongs.
Caravel, trained by Brad Cox, and it was yesterday in dramatic fashion that Brad Cox took the Grade 2 Fayette and thereby became the leading trainer of the Keeneland Fall Meet, standing by with the leading trainer of the recently concluded Keeneland Fall Meet, Caton Bradar.
Yeah, he did say he would settle for a tie, but you got the title outright, Brad. Congratulations. I'm guessing, though, not a big late-night celebration as you have a lot going on.
I watched a little bit of the Kentucky game. That wasn't much to watch there, so I turned it off and went to bed and up early for works this morning. But yeah, it was good to win. It's always nice to win at Keeneland.
And turning the page back to Caravel's work out yesterday, Christina mentioning that she can be a very spirited type of filly. What did you see from that work yesterday?
It was a good move. We weren't looking for much. I mean, we were just looking to let her kind of cruise around there, keep her on the ground. She's doing great. Her weight's as good as it's ever been. Very happy with the way she looks physically and how she's moving and her attitude. We're going to be running back in 20 days. We're taking a chance. We're not going to be one of the favorites, but I'm optimistic and hopeful that she runs well. I think she's going to perform well, but obviously running against the boys, it's going to be a big challenge, and, we'll see what happens.
She's a filly that obviously has a lot of talent, but I'm wondering if she's a little tricky from a temperament standpoint.
I think the biggest thing is just keeping her happy, keeping her in the feed tub. She's doing all those right now. She's eating well. That's probably just some of the main things with her, and just she's a good mover. She's very light on her feet. She's very athletic, and I think the biggest thing, once again, she's eating well, she's moving well, and I think she's set up for a big race. And once again, we are back quick. She got a good figure there at Keeneland. I think it's a bonus that she has a run over that turf course, and she's going to have to get a good trip.
Turning to the others that are here at Churchill Downs, it looked as if 3 of the 4 were out on the racetrack and jogged this morning. Everything is good after their final workouts?
Yeah, everything's really good. Super happy with the group overall, how they look, how they've come out of their works, and preparing to ship tomorrow. But yeah, so far so good. They all look awesome.
When you decide which to leave here and which, like Caravel, to have at Keeneland, what goes into that process?
Well, Caravel was just over there mainly because of the Franklin. That was our goal. And then obviously the Breeders' Cup was just, it just happens to be there. She's in the cell. We're taking a swing. So we just left her there. And it also gave her an opportunity to work on the turf where we didn't have that option here at Churchill. She'd actually breezed on the dirt leading up to the Franklin. So it didn't matter. She can breeze on the dirt or the turf, but we decided to just let her cruise around on the turf there yesterday. That had a lot to do with her staying over there. The other one's just his home base, where we'd like to kind of get a line on him, see where we are with him, and super happy with the decision we made to keep him here because they all work really well. So
appreciate the time, and congratulations again on the meet title. And a note, I saw CyberKnife's brother enter in the entries today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's in the last race. Starting out going long. He's about to tap it. Seems like he's got a good bit of stamina. Probably need a race, but we're hopeful that he's going to, step up and run a big one today and see where he takes us.
The beat goes on, guys. There's always another horse in the holster coming up.
Yeah, speaking of the beat going on, that training title that Brad Cox won yesterday for the Keeneland Fall Meet, his 3rd in a row. Caravel, serious contender in your mind in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint?
Well, a couple things that I noted just from Brad's comments there. One was commenting on her weight as it being good. So I think that's a good thing when you consider how easy that breeze was. If a horse tends to do too much, lose weight between their races or between their works, you don't want to ask them for too much either. And if they're nervous, they're going to be a type that tends to lose a little weight as well. So he didn't want to see a whole lot. I think all things considered, that work was okay. But it also sounds like the Breeders' Cup wasn't always plan A. It was the race here, right? So now you just want to take it easy, regroup, and see if you can't get her fresh enough again to compete at a high level.
That was Flightline leaving Sadler's Barn. Flightline going to be in the focus of the post-position draw, which will take place on Monday. We're going to have full coverage for you, but you can attend it if you're here in Lexington. It's at Rupp Arena. They're encouraging a live crowd there. It's going to be a lot of fun, and one of the most recognizable names, not only here in the Commonwealth, but in all of sport. Yes, Coach Calipari.
Admission.
Yeah, free admission. Really, there's no excuse. If you're in the area, if you're a resident, if you're visiting, already here for the Breeders' Cup, get down there. The draw shows from 2:30 to 4:30. Again, free admission, no ticket required. Doors at Rupp Arena open at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Just being at Rupp Arena, that is really something you want to see anyway when you come to Lexington. And here's a great way to do it. The Breeders' Cup draw, Halloween Monday, this Monday. And then our crew will be over at Lex Live Bowling. Thanks to George Kokorian. Appreciate that.
Are costumes
very much.
Encouraged for the draw? I mean,
That's a good, I wonder.
I mean, could we get Todd Pletcher to dress up
He
somehow?
would, I'm telling you. He's got the greatest sense of humor. When we come back, there's a huge son of Arrogate in this year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He was one of the great stars of his time. We'll bring you his story when we come back on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup.
Everyday wins make your day that much better. And now, you have a chance at free everyday wins when you play FanDuel Casino's Reward Machine, the new daily free-to-play game that offers you the chance to win up to $2,000 in casino bonus. So take a chance on more everyday wins with Reward Machine, only on FanDuel Casino.
Hey, big man.
Oh, hey.
Dave told me you got some kind of great system for betting that really works.
That's true.
What is it? Is it like home dogs? No. It's bird mascots.
No, I just use FanDuel's responsible gaming tools, like time and spending limits, to manage my play.
That's the system.
Hasn't failed me yet.
Cool. You know what, man? I'm just going to keep this between you and me.
It's not a secret, Bob.
Every bettor has a system. Make FanDuel's responsible gaming tools a key part of yours. It's more fun that way.
The Factor, a top 10 General Active sire in 2020. His progeny include Grade 1 winner Sistron, Grade 1 winner Noted and Quoted, Grade 2 winner Factor This, and Grade 2 winner Charmaine's Mia. With dozens of 6-digit yearling sales, he's a proven sire on the track and in the sales ring. The Factor, a leader of his generation, standing at Lane's End.
Chase the day with Day Chaser Cocktails, the official ready-to-drink canned cocktail of Breeders' Cup.
California Chrome comes roaring home with Arrogate coming after him on the outside. A furlong to run. California Chrome put to the test. Arrogate full out. Can he stick with it? California Chrome. Arrogate still coming. California Chrome. Arrogate steals the show.
That Breeders' Cup Classic added to the legend of Arrogate on his way to becoming a horse in thoroughbred racing in North America that earned the most money throughout his career. Although his life was cut short, his legacy is still felt as a stallion, and we will see Cave Rock as a heavy favorite in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. But there was one other performance that really defined Arrogate's career, and that was the Dubai World Cup. He went over there with a huge reputation, and Christina, he missed the break, and he still found a way to win. Simon Bray was on site there, and he called it one of the best performances he's seen by any horse in his time in racing.
I would echo that. It was definitely one of the more dramatic races that we've seen, and it wasn't just the fact that he dropped back, but it was how much distance he had to make up on the rest of those horses, how he circled them, and how he has that really determined, or had that very determined way of going, drops his head, really gobbles up the ground with every stride. Cave Rock runs like his daddy. It's fun to watch him out there and to see just how much he is like his sire.
And a career that had many signature wins. This one stood out. Let's look back at Arrogate's win in the Dubai World Cup and hear the story from those who were there.
All report they are go for the mission, then you are go for launch.
It's the big night, and it was raining, and the wind was blowing.
You'd think you're going to the desert. You're not expecting rain.
The track was strange. It was real sticky. It never really dried out.
It was just a whole litany of things going on. It was bizarre.
I hadn't been there since 2012.
The last time he was here, he had a heart attack. And
when I got on that plane leaving there, I said, well, you'll never see this face here again. And sure enough, here I am on my way to Dubai.
Here he comes. Arrogate up into gate number 9.
When they load into the gate and the start is always the most nerve-wracking time.
And that evening, he'd warmed up really, really good, pretty aggressive, which I liked. Strategy-wise, it was very important for me to jump well.
Ignition sequence start.
They get in the gate. He's standing beautifully.
Each starter has to handle 2 horses. He had a filly to the left, and she was acting horrible.
15 seconds.
I'm thinking, oh, what's going on here?
The guy just steps back.
10, 9.
So I look back forward to get ready. My guy's gone.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
Oh, my God. what the hell just happened?
I mean, you can see him literally like stop. Man, it pops me up in the air, and
It was almost like I thought he put his head up and just like looked for a second, and they broke, and he got away slow, and then he got bumped.
The horse on the inside and the outside, they just come and just squeeze him and just hit him, like just pinball them a couple times.
Is the horse okay? Is there some, like, what went wrong here?
So Mike just has him back, and the announcer, oh, it's Arrogate, he's dead.
Last, Arrogate last as they charge down to the judge.
And that was not where he wanted to be.
My heart just sank.
Hey, Bob just kept saying, can't believe it, unbelievable.
I can't believe I came all this way for this.
We came all the way here for
this to happen. I mean, I literally wanted to cry. I'm just thinking to myself, come on, I said, just come on, get back into the race. Just get back in the race. He's not liking the kickback. He ain't never had that kind of mud hit him in the face, so he's a little upset.
Gun runner, he's on the lead, and he is just cruising on the lead.
Around the half-mile pole, I told Dana, I said, boy, it looks like he's moving a little bit. Mike's got him moving.
Just little by little, he just started kind of getting back into the race.
Then Mike started picking up horses.
From the far turn, he starts making a little run.
And I looked up, and I thought, man, he can do this. Thinking of Zenyatta, you know, it popped in my head. That was her running style. She always came from way back. We're not out of this yet.
All I remember is that pink helmet cover, passing horses like crazy.
Look at him running. I mean, he's just picking off these horses, and he's making these tremendous strides.
I mean, his stride just lengthened.
He's just got that long stride. He just gobbles up the ground.
Balloon, balloon. All of a sudden, they start turning for home.
Oh my God, he's moving.
He was just picking him up. He was 2 strides to their 1, and he was just motoring.
And Bob said,
if this horse wins this race, I go, this is the greatest horse I've ever seen.
I was just like, holy shit, he can still do it.
And here comes the big A. Arrogate swoops up on the outside. A is for Arrogate. A is for absolute superstar. A is for anointing. Have we seen the anointing of the man of war of the 21st century?
Unbelievable what he did.
We did it. We pulled it off.
I've had some really great horses, been lucky, but man, I've never seen one make a move like that that just took your breath away.
It wasn't until the outrider walked up to me and said, I don't know if I've ever seen nothing like that.
Sheikh Mohammed and his brothers and his sons, they were in awe. It was an incredible scene down in the winner's circle.
And the flag's waving, and Arrogate's okay, and I've never seen Jimmy act that way, actually. He was going crazy.
Oh, they got me going, and I'm not one. I don't get too excited, you know.
I was just praying that Bob didn't have another heart attack.
My stands, they're good stands, and my doctor was there that worked on me, and he said, you look great, Bob.
Most humble, relieved feeling you could possibly have.
you just feel proud. You feel proud that they went out and laid it down for you.
You know, it was fun, it was stressful, but you're running for honor, you're running for trophies, you're running for bragging rights. I mean, that's what it's all about. And I found out that the Prince was very happy that I took him there and that he won.
Rishi Prasad was there that day. Rishi, what do you remember from Arrogate's win?
Todd, I remember vividly the entire experience. I was tasked on the day of standing next to Bob Baffert through the race so I can get an immediate post-race reaction. And it was one of those days where one expression on Bob Baffert's face told two different stories. The expression he had on his face when the horse missed the kick at the start of the race was one of disbelief, despondency, but it was exactly the same face of disbelief at the end of the race when Arrogate made up all that ground and turned what seemingly was an impossible task into victory. It was one of the most incredible reactions that I've seen from anyone in any sport. He, I think, had lost all hope within the first 50 yards of the race, and then he stood there in complete disbelief at the end of it. And like many people who were privileged to be there on the day, I felt it was one of the greatest performances in sport that I've ever seen.
That is saying something. Rishi's obviously seen some of the best horses in the sport in their best moments. And the Dubai World Cup itself has brought some of the greatest horses in the world. And then now we think what might have been. Arrogate, his life cut short after he went off to stud. But we get to see some of the promise through his progeny. Cave Rock is certainly a great legacy for Arrogate.
Well, and I mean, here's the look at the offspring that we're looking forward to for Arrogate. And Tell Me No Lies, who is the filly out on the West Coast for Peter Miller, who will be in the juvenile fillies. Cave Rock in the juvenile. Let's not forget Secret Oath. Coming into the distaff, Arrogate has sired a Kentucky Oaks winner as well. You know, when he first went to stud in the early stages, that first crop wasn't really performing as early as I think everyone expected them to. At the time that Cave Rock was purchased, the Arrogates weren't really as fashionable at the sales as they are now. So when you consider how much money they paid for him at auction here at Keeneland, $550,000, you would have expected him to be this kind of a performer.
It has been pointed out on social media, and you see it every time he comes on the track. We talk so much about pedigree and what is passed down from one horse to the next. In Cave Rock, you see the head carriage that Arrogate was known for, that low head carriage, and it was on display here into this workout yesterday at Santa Anita.
And I think you also see the determination in him, the determination that we showed you just in that piece from the Dubai World Cup, and the determination that this horse shows. He leaves it all out on the racetrack in his races in the afternoon. After, you know, setting early fractions that are strong, he finishes. He reaches his head even lower, and he really opens up that stride, gobbles up ground just like his sire did. I've watched his last, I don't know, 3 or 4 works. 2 weeks ago, he worked like a monster. Last week, I thought his gallop out wasn't really to the program that you usually see from Bob Baffert. This week, notice Juan Ochoa just keep him busy. They're not going to let him kind of get into that laid-back nature that I think he does have. Couple of taps on the shoulder. There's that big stride. There's that reach again. Perfect lead change. And watch him keep after this horse all the way into the turn. They're not going to let him start to pull himself up at all. Let's keep into a stiff, strong work. We're coming into one of the best races, or the biggest races of his career. He hasn't done anything wrong yet at 3 for 3, but it's clear that Bob Baffert is still keeping his foot on the gas pedal with this horse in the mornings.
The FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile, presented by Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance, and Cave Rock is one of the biggest stars on Future Stars Friday, but also one of 2 horses for trainer Bob Baffert in this race. National Treasure will go as well. And talking to Bob Baffert after the work by Cave Rock and more about National Treasure, Michelle Yu yesterday at Santa Anita.
Cave Rock putting in his final paces here as he'll be the probable favorite for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Trainer Bob Baffert, what was your response to his work?
Well, it went really smooth. You know, I was looking for something like that. I'm happy with all my horses today. A National Treasure, he couldn't have looked any better. He looked like that. This horse, he just looked great. You know, they switched leads on cue, asked him to go a little bit. He took off. You know, it was a serious work for all of them, because from now, you know, we're going to ship tomorrow. Hopefully we get there, and then we'll just go easy with them there. But they couldn't be coming in, these 2. All of them so far, you know, better. So I'm really happy where we stand right now.
Now, the last couple of works I've seen Cave Rock, he's been on the outside. Why the flip-flop towards the inside today?
I wanted Juan to control the pace. I didn't want him. Sometimes I'll put him on the outside, and I didn't want him to go into skiing mode. Yeah. And I want him to be nice, relaxed, nice. I just want him to get in a nice rhythm, and he was the whole way. And that's what you're looking for. I just wanted to go perfect. And thanks to this little radio, it went perfect.
What kind of audible did you have to call?
I didn't. They were perfect. They were on. Usually I have to tell them, hey, you know, come on, boys. But today they were just on. If they don't hear from me, that means they're great. And I just told, you know, I told Eric, you know, you can quit chasing.
I heard Eric when he came back, and you said, what happened? And he said he couldn't keep up.
He couldn't keep up. No, he's a really good horse. And, you know, it's fun. You know, I think I love the Breeders' Cup. Love going to Kentucky. And it's exciting, you know. And you know, it's like the playoffs, and they're tough. Everybody's tough. You know, you have to be right on. You have to be at top of your game. You have to break well. You got to get position. You know, and so there's still, you know, we got a ways to go. They have to ship, they have to get there, and You know, you just hold your breath from here on out. But I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, guys, this will probably be the last time you see it. It's just going to be me and Bob, because once we get to Kentucky, I know the paparazzi will be out in full force. So enjoy our quiet moments together.
I think it's going to be quiet. They're going to be at Flightline tomorrow. Come on.
We'll see you guys in Kentucky.
Yeah, but what we saw yesterday, he's actually probably right on about that. But K-Rock is a true rising star. And last year, Bob Baffert took the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile with Corniche. K-Rock is much more impressive coming in, it seems like, than Corniche was.
Yeah, he's just been so impressive. But I do notice that Bob keeps wanting to bring up National Treasure. Don't forget his other horse, National Treasure, running second to K-Rock last time out. He's played back and forth with those blinkers. He's tinkered a little bit in terms of the equipment. I think Bob Baffert has the right formula now, and I think he's looking forward to this horse running a big race. He could go 1-2.
Don't forget about another horse in Bob Baffert's barn and a much different race. It's the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Laurel River, a Juddmonte homebred by Into Mischief, coming off a massive win in the Grade 2 Pat O'Brien. And this horse, to me, is a serious contender in the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. This is a look at Laurel River's work yesterday at Santa Anita. Working in company is on the outside here. Will complete 6 furlongs in 1:12-1.
Yeah, so a stiff workout coming into the race, 6 furlongs. You're seeing a lot of these other horses go the half mile, go 5 furlongs. Bob Baffert asking for a little bit more from Laurel River, where we talked about Society, and I know she's 3, but as that kind of improving horse that's peaking, I think that's Laurel River right now. He's 4 years old. He's the improving 4-year-old, and he seems to be peaking at this point. He's a horse that always works in blinkers. You see that with his equipment on the outside there, and he's just so willing to do more in his training. It's really a sign of a horse that is in good health, a horse that is feeling good, a horse that's feeling fresh. He's going to go heads up here with the workmate, but keep an eye on the rider there. He has a good hold on this horse. He could easily turn him loose if he wanted to, but the instructions were to go together. We're going 6 furlongs. Keep up on the gallop out. Push him a little bit here. Right now, he's going to get a good, strong foundation builder out of this move as we come into the dirt mile.
Reaffirming the form of Laurel River is American Theorem. After all, after Laurel River beat American Theorem in back-to-back races, American Theorem then went out and won the Grade 1 Bing Crosby. He's preparing for the Cutter Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint, part of the Saturday Championship Day, and you can't miss American Theorem. He's actually one of the few gray-roan sons of American Pharoah that I've seen, but he is a galloping ghost out on the racetrack yesterday at Santa Anita.
He's another one of those that has not run since late August. So coming in off of his training for George Papadopoulos, he ran 2 huge races at Del Mar, including the Grade 1 Bing Crosby, his Win in Your In event, to get into this race. Remember we talked about those sprinters, and I said I love watching them, the way they come off the turn, the way they pin their ears, and the way they really start to attack the ground. This is an easier drill for this horse as compared to what I've seen the last couple weeks, but he does that. Look right there. Pins his ears a little bit, grabs that bit, and he's going to come off the turn. He knows he means business right now. Switch to the right lead here, and this is where you see the most acceleration from him in his races, is right around the turn. He runs the turn so well, and he knows his job. Joe Bravo just going to keep a good hold of him through this work and not let him do too much as we're coming into the Breeders' Cup. But I've seen his last few works, and God, he's feeling good right now. He's strong. He's powerfully built. I know he's a son of American Pharoah, and there was a lot of time where they were trying to stretch him out in distance. But again, another horse similar to Echo Zulu. Now you know where he is. You know where he fits. You're not trying to put him into a different box. He's really thriving as a one-turn late-running sprinter.
So, Christina, it doesn't seem like you're very excited about American Theorem.
I just love this horse.
What about
He's training so well. I mean, really, go back and look at 2 or 3 works back. He just looks so good right now.
What about Joe Bravo? How's he feeling? Michelle, you asked him that question.
Heading back with American Theorem after his last move, jockey Joe Bravo was aboard for the ride. Joe, what were your thoughts?
Honestly, I had all the workouts. I kind of have to say this morning was a wow. Started off so easy, relaxed. If you watch on the backside, his ears are up. He's just doing everything so comfortable. You see him down the lane, just dragging me down through there. We're going to find out a lot more in a week from now, right?
Tell me how you think he's progressed since you started riding him earlier this year.
I think George done a great job bringing him around and developing him, you know? I mean, giving him a little bit of time off. I mean, if you're going to win any race all year long, this is the one you're shooting for. And you look at him, he just come back like how you want him.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
Good, guys. Let's get a little lucky.
Good boy.
So the camp of American Theorem, absolutely excited about their possibilities in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. I'm excited that George Papadromo is going to be at the Breeders' Cup. The party can finally begin. One of the outsized personalities we talk about in the sport. He calls Southern California home, but the rest of the world is going to find out more about George Papadromo. If you want to find out more about the Breeders' Cup, the best way to follow is through FanDuel Plus. FanDuel, as we told you, is the official wagering partner of the Breeders' Cup, but so much more than that. When you download FanDuel Plus, just pick your favorite platform, Roku, Fire TV, or Apple TV, and you will have live racing coverage of the Breeders' Cup and access on-demand content, including this show, the Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup shows. You can go back and look at any of these and prepare for the Breeders' Cup Challenge Series replays, expert analysis, interviews, and so much more. Download FanDuel Plus. The sun is starting to peek out here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We're just underway in Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. So much more to come here on FanDuel TV.
It's time to bet the race, and FanDuel Racing has entered the starting gate. Download the FanDuel Racing app, and you're off. It's super easy to use from the start. Make every moment more with tools to help you win on the inside. Watch out for great promos and easy deposits. And here comes fast payouts. It's super easy to use. It's fast payouts. It's super easy. There's no doubt about it. The best place to bet is FanDuel Racing.
New customers bet the Breeders' Cup and get up to $100 back if your horse doesn't win.
At Calumet Farm, we're proud to offer proven stallions to fit every breeder's needs. With over 72 million in progeny winnings on dirt and turf, our diverse roster is producing the champions of today and tomorrow. Calumet Farm, a legacy reborn.
This is a Kentucky Thoroughbred. This is a Kentucky-built Powerfoil industrial fan. Like a Thoroughbred, it too delivers unrivaled performance. And while they both run with purpose and pride, this one runs to keep your workforce feeling cool and comfortable. Powerfoil, the best-selling big fan in the world. BigFans.com. Exceptionally engineered.
But well behind Tyler's Tribe as they come to the final quarter mile. Kylie Jordan has not moved a muscle on the big favorite. It's all Tyler's Tribe. Tyler's Tribe just cantering past the 16th pole. He's a 6th-length winner of the Iowa Cradle.
Trade Storm to win the Rico Woodbine Mile.
She's going to do it. Simple Verse has won the Ledger.
Snake Neck Spear and Sheen Murphy get through and have won.
It's getting really tight. The star of the season, drawing line.
The purple cap. Kamiko the far side of him. Kamiko's won. The other midline. Mongostina has just won it with Mosse.
Ocean Road after going to Vegas. Ocean Road.
Grade 1 winner and track record setter Lee. Like their sire, his runners have excelled on both dirt and turf, including these standout performers.
Poppy Flower is kicking in. Poppy Flower with the momentum. Nagarok, they come on for the finish, and it is going to be Nagarok.
Out of a Galileo mare, this dual surface star has sired juvenile stakes winners on both dirt and turf. Lee, standing at Claiborne Farm.
We're up here in the Keeneland press box, and usually this area is hustling and bustling with reporters, but in the morning it turns into a clocker station. Even there's a dog up here. This dog's name's Doc. He's going to leave here because he needs to go out and potty. At least that's what his owner just, look at that. That's what his owner just said. Hi, Doc. You being very helpful this morning. All right, we'll walk over here, though, and we got to kind of keep it low because it's dark. It's very quiet up here. The clockers are really focusing as well. But I just want to show you some of the tools that the clockers use. They keep the lights off so that they can better see the horses work in the dark. What is this? I'm guessing it's a neck light?
This is a neck light. It makes it so that we can read our book to record times and names and read the watch in the dark without giving us night blindness when we're trying to see out on the track.
And what other tools do you have to use? I can see a couple of other things on this table.
Important things is our snacks here. We have snacks.
Well, you're tied to the seat until the break.
Oh, yeah. A couple different watches. Cell phone for receiving orders. Getting texts from the trainers and assistant trainers on who's going to be working, when. And there's a computer that we'll use for recording the works into the system. Notebook, of course.
And binoculars.
Binoculars. Oh, you got to have binoculars. Good pair of binoculars for a clock are very important.
What's the hardest thing about your job?
I'm going to say the rush of all the workers after the breaks. After the Harrow breaks, it gets very busy, and keeping track of who's breaking, who's finishing, and trying to make sure that we don't miss anything when it gets very busy is the tough.
Real quick, how many workers were yesterday?
200.
So that just goes to over 200 horses that all of them had to clock. But you can see these little stations here. There are 3 clockers positioned up here in the press box. And this is just a little bit of an insight as to what goes on up here. Of course, the works are so important. The final times are very important from a handicapping standpoint. So these guys do a big job. And then, of course, a familiar face on the FanDuel TV airwaves. Jess is helping us out here this morning.
Gabby, thank you. Doc needs to potty, and so do I. We'll be back with more on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, brought to you by WinStar Farm and Keeneland Racecourse.
Nobody taught me how to be fast. Just win to be fast.
Nashville under no stress whatsoever. Simply incredible. Never asked for a thing. Track record.
This is one of the most impressive sprint performances that we have seen.
On FanDuel Casino, we make it easy to turn your site credit into real money. Unlike other casinos who make you wager your site credit over and over before you can withdraw it, we play fair. Just play through it once and you keep what you win. Turning all your site credit into real cash is that simple. Plus, you'll get paid your way, quickly and securely. Come see why FanDuel Casino promotions give you so much more than other online casinos. Join FanDuel Casino and play it again with up to $1,000 back if you're down on your first day.
TVG's free handicapping tools are at your fingertips. Access expert picks, both found on the app and at TVG.com. Find selections in either the promotions header, under the More tab, or on the race page for select races. And follow your experts to get notified when new picks are available. Then use the bet ticket to play along. Check out TVG's expert picks, both on the app and at TVG.com.
Longines.
Welcome back to Keeneland Racecourse in Lexington, Kentucky, host of the Breeders' Cup coming up this Friday and Saturday. I'm Todd Schrupp. Very pleased to be with Christina Blacker. You can see we've got the track maintenance going on, but after that, we're going to have a lot of horses coming out onto the track. We heard that in that clocker segment with Gabby Gaudet. Been a busy morning already for trainer Steve Asmussen. Joaquin Jaime catching up with him.
Nobody's won more races in thoroughbred racing history than the Hall of Famer Steve Asmussen. 8 Breeders' Cup wins on your resume as well. 3 horses preparing for the Breeders' Cup today. We'll start with the 2-year-old filly, Grand Love. What did she do this morning?
Nice, easy half mile. Carlos had a... I love how she's going over the racetrack. I think she's putting very good work over the Keeneland surface. We're very excited about her in the juvenile fillies.
In the Breeders' Cup distaff, you have Society. And normal for her in her morning drills?
Absolutely. You know, she's a filly that's won her last 2 races in front-running fashion, pretty solid fractions, and we expect more of the same. She's a very fast filly that is extremely sharp.
I know she had a big win at Charlestown, but did it surprise you with her breakout win in the Grade 1 Cotillion last race?
I thought the Charlestown Oaks, how fast she ran, the quality of the field she beat, the way she went through the wire, that's what led to her running in the Cotillion, and to see her extend that over more ground, I think is what separates the winners. Fast early and fast late.
And then your 3-year-old, you have Epicenter taking on Flightline in the Breeders' Cup Classic. What did Epicenter do today?
Nice smooth half mile, week out, 50 and change. We're extremely pleased with how he's coming into the Classic. Bigger, stronger horse. Looked beautiful in the paddock schooling this week, and what an exciting running in the Classic.
So 3 horses working this morning. You still have quite a few team members that have some work to do for their Breeders' Cup races. What does Monday look like for you?
It's very similar. 3 or 4 very light breezes, week of, typical of us. We've been here at Keeneland with all of the Breeders' Cup horses for a significant amount of time. 2 of them already having races over the racetrack, so we feel very good about where we're at right now, and it ought to be a very exciting week.
Who are the teammates that you can expect to work on Monday?
Jackie's Warrior, Clariere, possibility of doing something with Wicked Halo and Gunite, all dependent upon, we're expected to get about a 1/4 inch of rain, which I think will help things around here. It's been a bit dry, but we'll evaluate that when we start in the morning.
We'll follow up on Monday. Steve, always appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
There are so many numbers that are astonishing when it comes to trainer Steve Asmussen. One of them is the career milestone. First of all, you're looking at his Breeders' Cup record, but take into account he is approaching 10,000 career wins as a trainer.
It's almost unfathomable, isn't
right?
it? You
10,000.
sort of can't even think about it. How even just running 10,000 horses. You think of how much goes into that, how many details in each and every horse and each and every race. Steve Asmussen and many of the top trainers is one of those individuals that has an incredible mind for information and for remembering those kinds of details. I mean, I can't remember what I had for breakfast 2 days ago.
Right.
But he can tell you about these horses that he has all across the country. He remembers the little intricacies of their works, of their training, of the equipment. And as I mentioned yesterday, he seems very intentional about not only training them to be physical athletes, but to be mental athletes. How often, if ever, have you seen a Steve Asmussen horse act up in the paddock?
You're right.
Act up behind the gate. I mean, he really establishes those building blocks, the foundations of the lessons, and he works very closely with horses that need extra attention.
Yeah, because he's usually right there in the paddock, and that's if he's running a $20,000 claimer or he's in the Breeders' Cup Classic, as he will be with Epicenter and so many great horses that he'll have in the various divisions over the course of 2 days of championship racing. Let's find out more with Andy Biancone, who's trackside.
Hey guys, the track is opened after the renovation. Edgeway is walking onto the track right now, and as you can see, all these Breeders' Cup contenders have to jog in the chute for a state veterinarian before they can even be cleared to gallop. This is just standard protocol to make sure all these horses are safe every single day. They're athletes, so obviously, you know, things can change on the day-to-day. Everyone brings their horses here on their best form, but like we said, you never know with horses. So just to make sure everybody's safe, I mean, these horses are getting constantly checked. You can see Edgeway right now jogging in front of state veterinarian, and if any of these state vets see something wrong, they have no shame in pulling any horse up. They do not care. So it's great to see the safety protocol is such a high standard here at the Breeders' Cup.
In a lot of ways, while individual tracks are to be given credit for how they've changed their approach on their circuits, when the Breeders' Cup started to put more protocols in place, it sent a message to the rest of the industry. We all need to do better.
Right, and industry leading in terms of the standard and what is acceptable and so what needs to be not only done in terms of the monitoring of these horses, but also making sure that the public is aware that this monitoring is going on, and keeping the faith in the betting public of the integrity of the Breeders' Cup is of key and high priority, because this is two of the biggest wagering days of the year in American thoroughbred racing. You have to be transparent, you have to maintain that high level of integrity and standard, and you have to keep these horses and the riders safe.
About to take off in her workout. You're watching live Edgeway preparing for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, part of Championship Saturday, and to be seen exclusively here on FanDuel TV. Edgeway, a winner of the Grade 3 Rancho Bernardo last time out, beat Slammed, who Andy Biancone was talking about. We'll see a little bit later on. But Edgeway kind of reminded me of Slammed in that she's very aggressive in her work here.
She is. She's a tough workhorse. Look at Juan Leva. Look at those feet. Just really heels down forward in the dashboard. He's got a good, strong hold on her. And look at also the way his back is kind of rounded down. He's using every bit of his core strength to kind of hold her in the early stages of this work. Remember, as we heard from John Sadler and from other trainers, you want the tempo to stay the same, and you want to see that acceleration towards the end of the work. You don't want them to go flying off in the early stages and go so fast in that first quarter that they can't finish up. So now, because he was able to restrain her early on, she has something left to finish with. He kind of relaxes that hold a little bit. He's a little higher in the saddle. His back is more level. You could kind of sit a ruler up top there, and he's going to open up his hands and let her just coast on home. Good work for Edgeway. A much lighter work than what we saw from her last week. She really worked fast at Santa Anita on October 25th. 4 furlongs and 46 flat. It was the best of 18 that morning. They got their fast work in. She's a sprinter. Now you just want to keep her ticking along. Now you want to work on the freshness. You know she's fit. Let's keep her happy. Let's keep her fresh.
You been on public transportation much?
Here in Lexington?
Yeah.
Anywhere?
Anywhere?
Not lately. Just in my rental car minivan that they gave me in the Louisville airport.
Gabby Gaudet's aboard some public transportation that has some very important passengers.
Guys, we are inside the horse van with Chad Brown horses. This is amazing. These are the Philly contingent, and we have Regal Glory in Italian. We have Goodnight Olive and search results, actually. It's really tight in here. There's 2, 4, 5 people and 4 horses. And for Anna, our camera woman, there's really not much room for her. This is a look at what goes on. I mentioned earlier that Chad Brown is moving from his barn where he was during the Keeneland Fall Meet to Rice Road. And this is what they do. They put all of the equipment in. As we just got snotted on, we'll send it back to you guys.
No, I want to stay there. I want to double box that. I can tell you, and this is what I love about breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. I will always see something I've never seen, and I have never seen that shot live in transportation mode. Outstanding work, Gabby and Anna James there.
Having a little fun as well. Love seeing it. And love seeing just the handlers, the hot walkers, the groom right there with these horses as well. Those are the people that know them best. And you do want to keep them calm. You want to keep them comfortable in that short van ride over. As we say, it's all about preventing whatever you could think of could go wrong. They're like kids. Somehow they'll find a way to get themselves into trouble. So luckily, everybody, Gabby and Anna included, there to keep the Chad Brown contingent safe and ready to prepare for the Breeders' Cup.
Down on the racetrack, Andy Biancone.
Todd, we're here with assistant trainer Juan Leva, who just worked Edgeway. Juan, what are your thoughts following the work?
I thought it was a nice, easy work for her. She's a fast filly. If you let her go, she'll go too fast. So I just kind of took it easy on her in the beginning. Just an easy work for her.
Who's stronger, her or Flightline?
It's hard to say. She never gives me a break. Sometimes he does.
Well, she looked fantastic. And are you happy with the way she got over this track?
Yeah, she seems to really like the surface.
Thank you so much. She looks fantastic. Have a safe trip back to the barn, and back to you, Todd.
You know, one thing with Edgeway, she really thrives with some time in between races. She hasn't raced since August 28th. She'll be primed for a big performance in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. Let's check in with Rishi Prasad.
Todd, thank you very much. Now, one of the headline horses for the Europeans is Highfield Princess. She's trained by John Quinn, and the man responsible for travelling her over here is Con Foley, who is standing alongside me. Now, Con, obviously we'll get to Highfield Princess in just a moment, but this is your first trip to America, is that right?
Yeah.
How are you finding it?
Oh, grand. It's laid back a bit and that. They're fine, you know.
Well, let's get down to business. How is Highfield Princess? How does she take the trip?
She travelled very well. The lads that travelled her said that they'll feed him on the plane, give him water and everything, and she done everything right. She eaten up and she's drank plenty of water, never turned her hair, never sweated, nothing. She's very laid back, you know.
Now, obviously, the horses aren't allowed out of the quarantine barn just yet. We can't see her, so we're relying on your reports of how she's settled into her quarters here at Keeneland.
Just grand. There's no bother at all in her. That's the way she is, you know. She's just laid back.
And at home, back in the UK, is she as chilled out as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, she's even more at home than what she is here. Obviously, there's plenty of horses in there. You know what I mean? There's a lot going off in the barn, like, but she's just taking it all into in her stride, kind of thing, you know.
And we were just chatting a few moments ago about where her improvement this season has come from. That spell where she won in France and Ireland, and of course the Nunthorpe at York as well. It's just incredible.
Oh yeah, that's the way she is. Like you wouldn't know how good she's at home, you know, just till you run her, then she comes to light, you know.
So she saves her best for the trackers?
Definitely, yeah. Oh, definitely.
So anyone watching the gallops over the next week or so, watching the horses going around in the morning, they can't expect to see any fireworks from her?
Oh, no. Well, no, just Jason's coming over on Wednesday to ride her up to the race, and John is coming over tonight, I think. So.
Okay, that's Jason Hart and John Quinn who are coming over later in the week. So your role for the week, for the rest of the week?
Oh, just look after her and lead her out and feed her and make sure she's fine. That's my job, you know. They can do the rest, like.
Well, enjoy your trip to Keeneland, and hopefully on the weekend she's going to give us all a win. I think she'll win. What about you?
Well, she won't be far away. I won't say she'll win, but she won't be far away.
Keeping your hopes.
Put my head on the chopping block.
Keeping your hopes tempered. I like that, but I'm allowed to be a bit more confident. Yeah. Con, thanks very much. Catch up with you later in the week.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's great.
Back to you guys.
Well, Rishi pointing out you should be confident. Look at what she's done in her last two starts. Back-to-back Group 1 wins at York and at the Curragh. And overall, her career record, 12 wins from 30 starts. The Bay Mare by Night of Thunder out of the Danehill Mare, Pure Illusion, bred in France.
This 5-year-old season has been her best. She's 5 for 9 this year. The races that you mentioned, 3 straight Group 1 victories. And look at the ground that she's caught in her last few efforts. So she's just a champion. No excuses. Over soft ground, over good to firm ground, over good to soft ground, over fast ground, over the synthetic. She performs on anything. Con might not have taken as many trips today or this year, but she's been everywhere. She doesn't need to take her track with her.
Gabby Gaudet has been everywhere, from the press box talking to the clockers and now a van ride with some Chad Brown horses. You got slimed a little bit. How you doing?
I did get slimed. Yep. Okay, we're getting out of the way here, guys, because they have to get off the van. It wasn't a long ride, but it was definitely a tight ride, I'll say. Goodnight Olive was definitely the best, I would say, but it was a tie with search results. They were all very, very good. But see, you can see the staff really getting ready as the Sally crew is putting, the pathway down so that these horses can walk off the van. Again, all of the equipment, the horses are on this van, and they're going to be moving into this Rice Road barn momentarily. Guys, I've done a lot of stuff. That was pretty darn cool.
I would agree with that assessment, Gabby. And, we're looking at a short van ride here. Is this pretty much what you would expect if, say, they were vanning from New York, a much longer ride?
Yeah, something similar, but you might just see a little bit more padding. I'm not sure if they're bandaged up right now. We'll see that in a second, if they've already trained or if they've been kind of finished up for the morning or not. But you'll basically just see as much, yeah, they are bandaged, as much protection around the horses as possible. Even just those two kind of wood soft planks that are on the side there. You don't want them to bump their hips as they come off of the van into the side of the metal van itself. The hot walkers and the grooms have their lip chains on if necessary, have their shanks ready. You have plenty of people. Everybody is assigned to an individual horse, and these fillies, these mares, are just, they're pros. They know their drill. They all walked off just fine and making their way into their new home, and they'll kind of take a moment just to get familiar with their new stalls as well. I know we're in the same environment overall, but things look a little bit different. Maybe they're further down the shed row. Maybe they have a window. Maybe they don't. It's just as if you or I were settling into a new kind of hotel room on the road. You want to get used to your new surroundings before you really feel at home.
Here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, you start to see the narratives develop. Everyone has a story, how they got here and why they're here. Tyler's Tribe might have the most compelling story of anyone. Only the second Iowa bred to ever compete in the Breeders' Cup. And there's a lot in the name, as Joaquin Jaime brought us the story of Tyler's Tribe yesterday. But let's do some comparisons. Tyler's Tribe is coming in having dominated every dirt start so far, and they had some options. They decided to pass on a dirt start. They're going to step on the turf for the first time in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. Here's the workout October 15th at Keeneland. I didn't think Tyler's Tribe looked very comfortable going over the surface, and then now we look yesterday. Do you see any differences?
You see a little bit of a progression, but I still don't see a horse that's really loving his footing out there. I think if you watch his replays and you watch his races on the main track, he just moves a little bit better on the main track. They're trying something new with this horse. He is one that is undefeated. He's 5 for 5. I think you never want to doubt an undefeated horse. But I think if we were in any circumstance outside of the Breeders' Cup, after that work on the 15th on the left-hand side, you might decide to stay on the main track with this horse. Here we are in a circumstance where else do you put him? You know that he's talented. You know he has the ability, but you're not going to stretch him out around the rata ground against the cave rocks and the fortes of this division. So you end up in this circumstance of, well, we know he's fast and we know he has a lot of heart. And so let's try him on the turf course. They've given him the opportunity to try it. I don't love what I see in those couple of works, but I will say that sometimes horses in the afternoon in competition, the best time they're going to run over a surface is the first time. And so you might just really catch him by surprise in the adrenaline, in the heat of that moment. He might get those competitive juices flowing and be able to go out there and compete. The other thing I would worry about with him, Todd, and I know that he's had the chance to work on this surface, when you switch surfaces, whether it's turf to dirt or whether it's dirt to turf, when they come out of the gate, sometimes it looks so different to them, the color obviously, and just the texture. They prop for a second. That first jump, that is going to be something to worry about with Tyler's Tribe. Is he going to prop as soon as he sees the different surface when blasting from the gate? I think if he jumps away from there, he will get rolling, he will kind of feel it, and he will show his speed. But it's not ideal the way he moved over the turf course.
Son of Sharp Azteca, 5 for 5, has led every race gate to wire in dominating fashion. Tyler's Tribe attempting that new surface in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. Here are some horses who absolutely love the grass. For trainer Chad Brown, we're going to catch up on some of his workers. And we start with Rogier getting ready for the Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf, also with Rogier, who's on the inside looking at Regal Glory to the outside.
These two worked together last week as well. They seem to be regular workmates. I also noticed that the rider on Rogier takes a real long hold with her. You can see just how long the reins are and how far back his hands are. He's trying to get her to settle. He wants to be able to drop his hands and let her have just a little bit lighter of a contact with her mouth. Eventually, she came back to him in the work last week. I think she'll do so again here in the work from this week. But keep an eye on Regal Glory, too. Look at her just jump into the bridle as they come around the turn. She is a high-energy type as well. These two are good workmates because they seem to really bring out the best in each other. They're pretty far off the rail. They're around the dogs there, 49 and 4, but this is kind of a faster work than I think you see in general from some of Chad Brown's horses, but it's by nature of the personalities of these two. They're pushing each other for a little bit more, making each other a little bit stronger. Their heads up in the morning here. Good work. I did think that last week Regal Glory seemed to be going just a little bit easier than Rogier was. I think this week they're right on par together.
And Rogier, a winner of the E.P. Taylor last time out at Woodbine, a narrow winner. And Rogier renewing that rivalry with Mora, who was second in there and disqualified. All right, more from the Chad Brown barn. And taking a look now at Virginia Joy, the German bred, who last took the Grade 2 Flower Bowl back on September 3rd at Saratoga, but has yet to win a Group 1 race.
Distance is really her friend to Virginia Joy, and you would expect that with that German pedigree. A lot of stamina in the German pedigrees. I think it says a lot that she's going to work here with Domestic Spending. He is so talented. I know he's off the long layoff, but I also know how confident Chad Brown is in this horse. He's kind of holding his tail out pretty high there on the work. Keep an eye as they come together. Virginia Joy is one that is setting the tempo for this work. He's going to go ahead and keep it up with her, kind of coming up on the outside. With a horse like Domestic Spending, when you're dealing with the layoff that we are up against, you need to really come in off some strong works. You need to have a sharp workhorse to the inside who's going to let him kind of give all that he has. Good work for them. They're not asking for a whole lot. 102 and 3 in the end. I think all of the final touches were put on in the last 2 or 3 weeks. But Domestic Spending is one that I'm not going to count out. I shared this story yesterday on the show. Caleb Keller saying that Umberto Rispoli, who was aboard Smooth Like Straight in the Hollywood Derby, said he had never seen a horse go by him so fast. We didn't get to see his acceleration this morning. You're not really looking for that. But to the point of the long layoff, more of a gallop out was asked of Domestic Spending here. You can see the rider did want him to do this, did want him to carry it on. You need to really get in that fitness so that he can gallop around there and really come with that late flying kick in the end.
I'm going to see if I still have this. I'd put it in the back of my wallet. I was keeping it for this very moment. I don't know if I can find it. So it was a piece of paper. I was out at a restaurant. Oh, here it is. So I got handed this piece of paper, and usually you think there's a phone number on here.
Yeah.
There was not. You can read it. This is what someone sent to me at a restaurant just about 2 days ago. What does that say on that piece of paper?
It just says Domestic Spending.
So someone very confident about Domestic Spending sending that over to the table.
How long have you been holding on to this?
Because I figured at some point we're going to talk about Domestic Spending. It'd be a great story and a little bit of a prop. And so, yeah, whoever you are out there, good luck. Domestic Spending. It does look very, very, very well.
He's just such a big, beautiful horse, too. Such a lovely frame on him. Definitely has grown into himself in the best way and could be sitting on a peak effort. He'll need it, but he could be ready for it.
Gabby? Oh, okay.
Not Gabby.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else in your wallet?
Do you take Diners Club?
Any other tips that have been written down on scrap pieces of paper?
So we're going to see how this works, because I've never had someone just send that over. We'll see if it works. It's going to be a new angle for me. There is Gabby. Gabby, how you doing?
Good. And guys, we obviously just watched those turf workouts from yesterday. I mentioned earlier today that all of Chad Brown's horses for the Breeders' Cup pretty much worked yesterday. They vanned over here just a moment ago, and they're just getting settled in. You can see some of the horses are now in their stalls, but the staff is so busy. I mean, credit to Chad Brown's staff. He has some of the best staff in the entire world, guys, whether it's exercise riders, grooms, hot walkers, what have you. They're just working really hard today. I mean, imagine the day they had yesterday with all of the workers, getting them ready, getting them out of the works, and the day that is entailed with that, with such a busy day. And then today, moving the entire barn into Rice Road, and that's his main assistant in Baldo. As I'm just trying not to get run over here. There's a lot of horses coming and going as they get set back here at Rice Road. But we're going to be talking to Chad Brown in just a moment. I saw him. He gave us the green light to ride the van over, and he was still at the barns by the pavilion. So he said when he comes back here to Rice Road, we'll catch up with him and talk more about those workouts from yesterday.
Christina, it ties into what we're talking about, the remarkable numbers with Steve Asmussen. But when you look at the sheer size of the barns of Steve Asmussen, Todd Pletcher, Chad Brown, just having a functional organization is incredible to me. And this is a good look at the frenetic nature. But controlled chaos that is taking place.
Love to see the org chart, right?
Yeah.
The flow chart of where everybody goes. But it just speaks to the leadership of a Chad Brown, of a Todd Pletcher, in that not only do you hire people who are very capable and you trust them as horsemen, but they're also as organized, and everybody knows their job. Todd and Chad need to be watching these horses train. He can't be back there worrying about which horse is going into which stall. He needs to be watching them. They need to be talking to the owners. Everybody has their role, and it looks like everybody well aware of what needs to be done to get through the morning today.
If you had to name one trainer that is responsible for making the Breeders' Cup a destination point, it would be Dwayne Lukas. And at the age of 87, he is back. We are going to catch up with him on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, brought to you by WinStar Farm and Keeneland Racecourse, right after this.
When the thoroughbred world descends upon Lexington this November, there is one place you need to be. The place where history comes alive with every championship victory.
He's authentic indeed.
The place where the future is built with the fall of a gavel. The place that exists to be the heart of this industry. The center of it all. Home to the November breeding stock sale and 2022 Breeders' Cup, Keeneland.
The NBA is back, and with FanDuel, this season's looking better than ever. Because right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet and get up to $1,000 back in free bets if you don't win. Plus, all customers get 3 months of NBA League Pass with a $5 bet from America's #1 sportsbook. That's right. Not only do you get a no-sweat first bet, you can also watch NBA League Pass on us. Make every moment more with FanDuel.
Hey, big man. Oh, hey. Dave told me you got some kind of great system for betting that really works.
It's true.
What is it? Is it like home dogs? No. It's bird mascots.
No, I just use FanDuel's responsible gaming tools like time and spending limits to manage my play.
That's the system.
Hasn't failed me yet.
Cool. You know what, man? I'm just gonna keep this between you and me.
It's not a secret, Bob.
Every bettor has a system. Make FanDuel's responsible gaming tools a key part of yours. It's more fun that way.
The industry has a few things that we have to take care of better, and one was the aftercare of the horses.
We have a social responsibility to make sure that thoroughbred aftercare is also #1 on the list.
Just the word aftercare has become part of the vernacular in a way that it was not.
We started with some 21 organizations, and now we're up to over 82 facilities throughout the country and giving away almost just under $25 million.
FanDuel TV's Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup is presented by WinStar Farm and by Keeneland.
What a different feel to the racetrack today. There's still a decent amount of people on hand, but this was yesterday, a large crowd here to see Flightline as he had his final work leading to the Breeders' Cup, and no one walked away disappointed, and that says a lot about how great Flightline is. We talked to some fans who showed up as early as possible when the gates opened here and waited for at least an hour before he came out on to the racetrack. If you did not see this yesterday, we're showing it to you again. It is worth a look. Just like all his races, it is something you need to tune in for.
He delivers, doesn't he?
Yep.
He lives up to the hype. There's a lot of anticipation for this work yesterday. Juan Leiva has to be just so proud of what this horse was able to do underneath him. And he's told us several times that he's just the best horse he's ever been in contact with, ever sat on top of. And I think pretty much everybody would echo that. He does much of the same, which is exactly what you want right there, opening up his stride, letting him just kind of reach out there, drops his head, find those gears, right? Drop and reach, drop and reach. That's how they accelerate. A little bit of a tap on the shoulder, go ahead and switch leads and finish up through the gallop out. Once he sees these other two horses to the outside there, I think that's right when he kind of took a look at them, maybe shorten stride for just a moment, but then again, you want to keep out of traffic. Once you're clear, another just little push to keep on with this gallop out as we get ready to go the 1.25 miles. Big effort yesterday morning from Flightline, and it was also nice to see all the East Coast horsemen that have seen him, of course, on TV, but get to experience it with your own eyes. It's different when you get to see him right there, and you really do feel like you're in the presence of greatness. I think everybody that was here felt his aura, that energy, and it gets you more excited for next weekend. Joaquin said it doesn't really feel like Breeders' Cup until you get everybody shipping in. I think that feeling came early yesterday because of Flightline. It really felt like Breeders' Cup week.
14 championship races over 2 days, and none bigger than the Breeders' Cup Classic, and that horse right there, Flightline. And we don't get to see Flightline very often. Just 5 starts coming in, a lot of time in between those starts. But when you run the way he does, you have to space things out. But it is quite a run that he is on this year.
You do have to space things out. It's been documented that, just over the years, they've had a little bit of trouble here and there with his feet. So that's a part of the reason why you go ahead and keep those races spaced out. But also, back to the conversation of John Sadler, I think if you look at the last 5 years isolated versus the last 10 or 15 years, he has made the conscious effort to start spacing out races for his dirt horses. And I think a lot of that really comes and is predicated on sheets, on ragazines, on thoroughgraphs. That's the way I handicap. It's the way a lot of people handicap. You talk about the bounce theory. You talk about horses being able to run through those big numbers. It's hard to continue that trajectory if you squeeze the lemon dry. It was different, I think, 20, 30 years ago. You didn't really fault a horse for losing a race. Right now, we want the perfection, and especially with a horse like Flightline, you want that to keep going. Horses need time between starts to keep improving their speed figures.
We have the post position draw coming up on Monday. Is there a particular post you would want for Flightline?
I think you just want to be outside of Life is Good. I think that's the most important thing for him as far as the pace goes. I don't think you want the rail because you don't want to get stuck kind of in a switch there if Life is Good makes the lead, if other horses are able to box him in. You probably don't want to be all the way on the outside either because you do have to run past the crowd. There's going to be a pretty lively atmosphere. Somewhere in the middle would be great, but just outside of Life is Good would be key.
Okay, so somewhere, again, what you want to keep an eye on the post position draw. Where does Flightline draw in relationship to Life is Good, one of his main rivals in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic? That is also just one of 14 races they're going to be drawing the post positions for on Monday, October 31st. Our post position draw show for the Breeders' Cup brought to you by Rood and Riddle Equine Hospital. And we encourage, if you're in the area, go out and see it for yourself in person. There's going to be a live crowd there in historic Rupp Arena. The draw will take place from 2:30 Eastern Time to 4:30 Eastern Time. Doors will open at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And again, it's absolutely free. Public parking for the post position draw is available at Gate 1 or Gate 2 from High Street. Experience it for yourself. The Breeders' Cup post position draw, and Coach Calipari from UK is going to be there to draw the biggest race, the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. We'll be back with more Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, brought to you by WinStar Farm in Keeneland here on FanDuel TV.
Longines. Speightstown. Munning. Echo Town.
It's Echo Town for Joe Talamo, and Echo Town raced away.
And Echo Town is drawing away in the stretch. Echo Town wins the Alan Turkin Stakes.
A sire line so prolific, it repeats itself. Echo Town.
Trade Storm to win the Rico Woodbine Mile.
She's going to do it. Simple Verse has won the Ledger.
Slayton Spear and Asheen Murphy get through and have won.
It's getting really tight. The star of the season, Roaring Lion.
The purple cap, Kamiko the far side of him. Kamiko's won. On the midline, Mongostine has just won it with Mosse.
Ocean Road after going to Vegas. Ocean Road.
Connect, a Grade 1 winning millionaire and the best son of Curlin at stud to date. physically impressive and dominant on the track. Winner of the Grade 1 Cigar Mile and the Grade 2 Pennsylvania Derby, where he defeated Gunrunner, Nyquist, and Exaggerator, with Grade 1 winner Rattle and Roll in his first crop, along with Grade 3 winner Hidden Connection. Connect, a proven winner on the track, a proven stallion in the making.
At Calumet Farm, we're proud to offer proven stallions to fit every breeder's needs. With over 72 million in progeny winnings on dirt and turf, our diverse roster is producing the champions of today and tomorrow. Calumet Farm, a legacy reborn.
It's time to bet the race, and FanDuel Racing has entered the starting gate. Download the FanDuel Racing app, and you're off. It's super easy to use from the start. Make every moment more with tools to help you win on the inside. Watch out for great promos and easy deposits. And here comes fast payouts. It's super easy to use. It's fast payouts. It's super easy. There's no doubt about it. The best place to bet is FanDuel Racing.
New customers bet the Breeders' Cup and get up to $100 back if your horse doesn't win.
This is a side of me that people don't know. In the quiet times, either early morning or late afternoon, every once in a while I will sit and write things. And I enjoy writing poetry. In fact, this is just one. It happened that Giovanni Franco saw it on my desk and he took a picture of it and put it on Twitter, and it made everybody's Facebook. This one's called Out of Time. I woke up today with a troubled and uneasy mind, only to realize that this wonderful life I was living was running out of time. Am I a poet with a verse that would not rhyme, or a simple dancer a step and a half behind? I thought of all the ups and downs in life, so very real and strong, knowing that God has blessed me in every way as I struggle and work to move along. So today, I will love each and every one as if they were truly mine, as I realize and know I'm running out of time.
Well, a poet, a horseman, and a coach of life as well as sports. It is always a real treat and a privilege to get to sit down with Dwayne Lukas. And I've got to set the stage for you because we're here in his office. The work is done because he starts early at 5:30. Absolutely. But we've got Lori, friends that you told me you just bought.
Bob and Ann Gent, who are partners with us on a couple of our horses.
And weanlings.
And a weanling.
I said it's always a sign.
How do you like this name? How do you like this name? Going Steady. That's what we did. That's the weanling's name.
Perfect. And they are here because you're going to be racing a horse this afternoon at Churchill Downs. So I want to start, though, with the first thing this morning. I saw Secret Oath out on the track. Looking great, looking strong. Tell me what you're seeing in her.
Well, I think that the time since her last race to now has really helped her. She needs to fill out. She's got a big old frame, you know, and a lot of filling out to do. I think her best year is going to be her 4-year-old year. So the little bit of time we had here, she's put on some weight. She's gotten strong, maybe brightened up a little bit from a campaign. So I feel pretty good about her. I think we're really headed in the right direction.
Wayne, with a filly like this, and I should say with all the fillies that you've trained over the years, it's always a balancing act. They have the talent. They put so much out into what they do every single time. How do you gauge where they're at and that they are ready to come back and improve?
Well, you have to there's one thing about fillies, and maybe women in general, they're unforgiving. A filly, when you train a filly, she's very unforgiving. And you can take a stud colt and you can lean on him, you can do a little bit more, you can knock him around a little bit and make sure that he's doing what you want. You can't do that with a filly. They're very unforgiving. You have to pamper them, give them what they want, make sure you're reading properly into what the training should be. And in order to do that, you got to spend a lot of time with them. And we get those good fillies, and we do spend a lot of time with them. Secret Oath goes out, regardless of the weather, twice a day in the afternoon, again, and graces every day. So that's pretty much the key, these fillies.
You have 20 Breeders' Cup victories. 10 of them were with fillies, and 4 of them were in the distaff. Is this experience, because of the place that you're at right now in life, different for you?
I would say so. It's different for anybody that wins one of these. I don't care if they're 20 years old or 200. When you win one of these, it's special. They're hard to win. You're taking the whole world on. You're trying to beat everybody's best horse on a given day. So if you get it done, it really stamps you, I think. It's a wonderful system where we can showcase not only the fillies, but the 2-year-old colts, the 2-year-old fillies, the sprinters, the grass horses, the route horses, everything. So you can tell by your videos and what you've got in the archives that when they win one, all hell breaks loose. They love it.
I want to test your memory a little bit. Take you back to one of the first Breeders' Cup distaffs that you won with Lady Secret, the Iron Lady, had been second the year before to one of your horses in your first Life's Magic, in your first distaff victory. What do you remember about that day when she capped off an unbelievable campaign with the win in the distaff? She had already rattled off unbelievable victories. I think that she won, when all was said and done, 8 Grade 1s. She beat the boys in the Whitney. And when I was watching the video, she opens up by 5 or 6 down the backstretch with Pat Day on board. So you know she's running on her own.
Right. Well, with Pat Day, if you always, when you ride Pat Day, you always question, where you're at, because he had brilliance in holding and giving a little extra and having a little extra in the tank always to finish up. But, here I had said to my son Jeff, I said, with her, if we can win the distaff today, we were in the conversation for Horse of the Year. And I said, all we need to do is win the distaff and then maybe have an upset in the Classic with the other horses that are being talked about for Horse of the Year, and we can be Horse of the Year. And Jeff looked at me and he said, I think we really need to make a statement. He said, we need to open up and really win it. And that's exactly what happened when she hit the 8th pole and was gone. I felt we had a great chance to be Horse of the Year, and it's exactly what happened.
Not only Horse of the Year, but she's listed as one of the top 100 horses of the century. Some pretty high praise. I said 4. The most recent of those was maybe the biggest upset in the distaff from your runners, and that was with Spain. I asked you earlier, it was a surprise to the bettors. She paid generously, but was it a surprise to you?
Not too much. She came, Thoroughbred Corp moved her over to us and asked us to do the best we could. They were not thinking she was a Breeders' Cup horse, and she developed so beautifully and came along every day just a little bit better. So I thought she was going to hit a peak, as they say. We're going to be on our very best day in the Breeders' Cup, and sure enough, here she comes.
Wayne, the game has changed a lot. The first of those Breeders' Cup distaff victories for you was 37 years ago, and the most recent was with Spain. What keeps you in the game? What keeps you coming to the barn every day? What keeps you being the first one at the barn every day?
Well, I'm trying to get out of debt. No, really, I love the competition. I love taking on. Now, these, like I just said, these are the biggest and hardest races in the world to win, and I love to take these guys on. If I've got a little something to work with, I have a passion for it. I love the main arena. I don't like to I don't shy away from the challenge, and I enjoy it so much, being able to develop a young horse that. And then I guess, what the hell else am I going to do? I'm an old man, and I know this, and it's been good to me. I've been totally blessed, and Lori, my wife, loves it, and so I don't know what else we do. We're not going to the Barbados or someplace and sit on the beach. We got to get out here and train.
It would be a surprise to the bettors, I think, if Secret Oath came up and won the distaff. Would you say it would be a surprise to you?
No, not at all. First of all, she's on her home track. Secondly, she's at a distance that is in her wheelhouse. She is definitely at a distance here where she can handle it. She's beat these horses before, not the older mares. I, again, have great respect for them. But I think the situation is set well enough that we can win it. It would not surprise me, and it would not surprise me to see her run third either. You have to be realistic about these things. But I think it's all set up for a great effort. I really do. I like what I see every morning now. I just want to keep her happy until Saturday. And what do you think she's going to be? What, 10-1 in the morning?
I think she probably will be.
Well, you're a good handicapper. 10-1 is fine. She'll go higher than that maybe a little bit when the betting closes. But if you look at the record, and you have, a lot of mine are double digits going into, including the last one, Take Charge, Brandy. And at 61-1 maybe, something like that.
Take Charge Brandy, huge price, and as always, not a surprise to her trainer when she comes in.
No, I had said to Victor Espinoza, the rider, I was standing there in the paddock before we legged the riders up, and I said, Victor, when you get to the quarter pole, I don't know how tight I have her, so open up 2 or 3 lengths on them and get a little cushion. And Dale Romans was standing there and overheard me, and he said, are you out of your mind? What's this open up and get some cushion? And I said, well, I want him to, get away from him a little bit. He said, unbelievable. If I didn't hear that, I wouldn't have believed that. Here he is at 61-1.
You can't.
Telling that rider to open up at the quarter pole.
And that's what Wayne continues to do as well, as we rattle off the wins, the surprises, and doing the unbelievable, and it is always a treat. We're going to see Secret Oath tomorrow, and we'll check back in with you after her workout and look to the Breeders' Cup in just a few days. Always a pleasure, Wayne.
Pleasure for me. Have a great show.
It is always a treat to get to stop in and talk with words of wisdom, and not just about the horses, but about everything, as you guys can tell.
Yeah, it makes you feel blessed and privileged to be in this industry, and he's not just named the coach affectionately because of his actual coaching credentials. He is truly motivating when you get a chance to sit down and talk to D. Wayne Lukas. Gabby Gaudet has a chance to talk with trainer Chad Brown.
Well, we made it, the horses and myself and our camerawoman, Anna. Chad, thank you so much for letting us do that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a good perspective for everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Talking about yesterday, you had a lot of workers. We don't have time to go through all of them, but I want to start with the turf workouts. Can we talk about Regal, Glory, and Rogier and what you saw from them yesterday?
Yeah, just a little maintenance from them. They're doing super. They're coming back on 4 weeks rest, so I don't want to do too much with them since both their nice races they had. So I was really pleased with it.
How about Virginia Joy and domestic spending?
Domestic spending coming off that long layoff, we wanted to do a little more with him on the gallop out. He went super. And, Virginia Joy's going to have a work cut out for her. She's really going to have to step up in class. She's coming off a nice win. She hasn't run since Saratoga, so we did a little more with them. But they went fine.
And one in particular I thought looked really good yesterday. I want to get your thoughts. It's Blazing Seven.
Yeah, Blazing Sevens. He had a really tough work a week ago with Jack Christopher. And that, I hope, tightened him up pretty good. So we did something easier yesterday, and he did it solo. And I'll tell you, he went like an older horse that's run a bunch of times. So professional and so smooth. And, it's exciting. He's going to have to step up again. It's a pretty tough field, looks like, in the juvenile. But I think he fits.
We were talking about it a little bit earlier, just about the staff and what it takes to make the show go. Can you talk a little bit more about the staff and really what goes into it?
Yeah, I have over 200 team members, as we call it, and everyone has their jobs, and up and down the responsibility list, from the assistants right on down to the foremen and the grooms and the hot walkers and the night personnel and the office managers, and and such. So it really takes everybody pulling their weight and doing the job well. And I'm really lucky. Most of the people that work with me have been here 8, 10 years or longer in the 16 years we've been running the company. So it's such a really privilege to get up every day and work with them. I mean that sincerely. And I really feel if you go around these other barns, when you make it to this level, these Breeders' Cup horses, a lot of these top barns, you're going to find the same. People that have stayed with the same trainers and the same teams. And I think it's a wonderful thing about our industry. You see a lot of that.
It is very dedicated team members, as you said. Thank you for the time this morning, Chad.
Thank you.
Coffee looks good, doesn't it? The Chad Brown horses look good, obviously, coming into this Breeders' Cup as well.
They absolutely do. And yeah, 200 employees on the team there. And it does take everybody to know their role, to pull their weight, and to also be perceptive with the horses. You know, Chad is one person, and he's keeping track of so many horses, let alone the Breeders' Cup horses, but the horses that he's responsible for back in New York, everybody having to report every little detail so that he can make the decisions that end up leading to success.
Making decisions when you're playing the Breeders' Cup is obviously very important. You can take all this information you're learning on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup and turn it into money, especially now with this FanDuel racing offer. It's a no-sweat first win bet up to $100. You heard that right. That's $100 back if you don't win your first single horse win bet. Scan the QR code on your screen or visit racing.fanduel.com for more details. Wesley Ward has another chance to be in the winner's circle at the Breeders' Cup. When we come back, we will take you inside one of the most successful operations in the thoroughbred racing world.
This is a Kentucky thoroughbred. This is a Kentucky-built Powerfoil industrial fan. Like a thoroughbred, it too delivers unrivaled performance. And while they both run with purpose and pride, this one runs to keep your workforce feeling cool and comfortable. Powerfoil, the best-selling big fan in the world. BigFans.com. Exceptionally engineered.
Everyday wins make your day that much better. And now, you have a chance at free everyday wins when you play FanDuel Casino's Reward Machine, the new daily free-to-play game that offers you the chance to win up to $2,000 in casino bonus. So take a chance on more everyday wins with Reward Machine, only on FanDuel Casino.
TVG's free handicapping tools are at your fingertips. Access expert picks, both found on the app and at TVG.com. Find selections in either the Promotions header, under the More tab, or on the race page for select races. And follow your experts to get notified when new picks are available. Then use the bet ticket to play along. Check out TVG's expert picks, both on the app and at TVG.com.
Sire Sensation Gunrunner is the sire of 6 first crop Grade 1 winners.
And he's going to win the hopeful Zulu wins the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and CyberKnife has won the Haskell.
Society is going to win the Cotillion, and Tama, they win the Backcars Pennsylvania Derby.
Early voting comes inside and wins it. He wins the Preakness.
Horse of the Year, Gunrunner, standing at 3 chimneys.
They're coming to the top of the stretch. One-timer on the outside of Twilight Gleaming. These two with Twilight Gleaming in front. One-timer on the outside. Trying to come up the fence is Hierarchy with a late bid. In the center, Coffee Maker is coming too. Dairy Name from the back of the pack is flying. Here's the wire. It's Twilight Gleaming.
Twilight Gleaming, just the most recent success story for trainer Wesley Ward at the Breeders' Cup. And this year, he will have Golden Pal highlighting the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. And Golden Pal is trying to do something rather remarkable. That is win 3 Breeders' Cup races in a row. Took the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, took the Breeders' Cup Sprint on the turf last year, and is back as the heavy favorite in there. And then Christina, there is Wesley Ward in the anticipation from the global racing community when he shows up at Royal Ascot.
That's true. The entire program geared towards these turf sprinters. And what I love about Wesley Ward is that he's obviously so passionate about what he does, but he's someone that is really stuck to his program, stuck to what he is good at, stuck to what he focuses on, and he's been able to turn that into a revolutionizing success. He's really opened, I think, a lot of people's eyes to going global with your horses.
And he's seen horse racing from just about every angle. He was a jockey at one time, an Eclipse Award-winning apprentice, but now he is one of the most successful trainers in the world. Here's how Wesley Ward approaches his profession.
To me, this is the greatest place in the world to train. At the farm here that's adjacent to Keeneland, it's more of a European style. They train on the track, but yet they're here at a farm, so they're real tranquil and relaxed, and it's just a great environment for a horse. The thing about racing is you always have something to look forward to. You know, you might get beat on that day, but you're planning with that particular horse where you're going to go next with them. And if you got a lot of them like I do, you got a lot of plans. Every foal that I have is folding right behind us. I can't get enough of it. Even though I got gray hair and I'm getting older, I still am learning a lot. Whereas early on, I started early in September, I found that I really don't need that. I'd keep them out as long as I can out in the field. And I don't want to bring them into a stall until sometime around mid-December. I don't have a set plan in what I do ever. I take each horse as an individual. As a jockey, I received the Eclipse Award when I was 16 years old. And I'd won 420 or 30 races. As time went on and I grew taller and my body was wanting to get out wider, fought it as long as I could, and then I just went right into training. And when I went into training, I thought I'd be able to, you know, work hard and be successful, and the success didn't come as easy as it was as a jockey. I really didn't know a lot about Ascot when I first started. I'd heard about it. And as I moved my stable back to the East Coast, I started paying more attention to it because I'd have a lot of winners early on at Keeneland and really nowhere to go, nowhere to run them until Saratoga started. And I just thought, well, let me give it a try. They put me in a big suit and a big hat, and I thought, wow, this is such a great place. And when I got beat the first time, I said, man, this is going to be a long week. You know, everybody I talked to about going over there was kind of like, yeah, Wesley, good luck. But you could tell when they walking around the corner, they were kind of laughing. And then, albeit the next day, we won the Queen Mary Stakes. And I just thought, wow, this is just unbelievable. You know, I can do this. Winning these bigger races is something that everyone strives for. It's like a drug. You never want to get away from it. I'll keep training racehorses until the day I can't get to the track anymore. I know there's a lot more to life, but I'm not interested in it.
I mean, straightforward, you absolutely get, when you talk to him in person, the authentic Wesley Ward, and the success has shown through here in the Breeders' Cup on the international stage, as well as we mentioned with Royal Ascot. His son is going to law school here at the University of Kentucky. Wesley Ward loves this part of the country. He's truly part of the Commonwealth.
He's the embodiment of the do what you love and you'll never work a day of your life saying, because he just does love what he does. And I think so many people, when you come into contact with him and when you get the opportunity to have any conversation, even if it's just listening to an interview, you have that instant appreciation of his knowledge, of his experience, of how genuine he is, and of how he trains by feel and on instinct and by connecting with those horses. Listen to the way he said, I want to leave them out in the pasture as long as I can. I want to leave them out there until December. It makes me think of the kids now that go to nature school and they learn so much by playing and they learn so much by experience. That is very true, and he's kind of adopting that kind of education with his horses, and then the way that he brings them up and teaches them to break from the gate. I mean, they learn quickly in his program, and I think it's because of that connection.
Authentic and genuine, two great adjectives to describe trainer Wesley Ward. A lot of adjectives could be used with Golden Pal, who is out on the track right now, expected to be the favorite for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Took the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint last year at Del Mar, going gate to wire. Prior to that, as a 2-year-old, another win at the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. So again, going for 3 in a row on racing's 2 biggest days. Can Golden Pal, with his brilliant early speed, take this field gate to wire this year?
Oh, yes. I mean, he's just so good. He's so fast. And in addition to that speed, it's how quickly he gets away from the starting gate. It's how much power he has behind and just that push that he has coming away from there in the first jump or two. If you go back and look at the jockey cam footage that we have from his race in the Woodward, from Irad Ortiz's perspective, you see him come out of the gate. You don't see another horse to the left or to the right. These are some of the fastest horses that we could gather at Keeneland back on October 8th, and he was already a length or two clear of them in 1 or 2 jumps. That is one of his strongest weapons, and he's also just a true professional. 8 for 12 lifetime, perfect 4 for 4 here at Keeneland, and 8 for 11 at the distance, the son of Uncle Mo, and that brilliant sprinter herself, Lady Shipman.
That most recent start you're referencing where he took the Woodford, he was only 2/5 of a second off the track record. Wesley Ward will also have Campanile in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, and this is a look yesterday at Campanile for Stone Street Stables coming out onto the turf course.
She likes to get it on. She's high energy. You can see as soon as they get onto the turf course there, she knows it's go time, ears forward. She doesn't look like a 4-year-old filly. She looks like she could keep up every bit with the boys in terms of her size and her muscle tone. They waste no time with her. Just get out there and get to work. She's all business in here. She enjoys her job. I've watched some of her last works. Every now and then getting out there around the dogs, she kind of takes a look, just wanting to know basically where the rider wants her to be, what path they want her to be in. She was the winner at Kentucky Downs, going 6.5 furlongs back on September 10th. That was the first time we had seen her since her 3rd place effort in the Platinum Jubilee at Royal Ascot. Huge effort for her, I thought, because it's really extending beyond what she's used to, and she has a little bit of versatility as compared to some of the other turf sprinters. She can go 6, she can go 6.5, she can hold her own over soft and heavy going, and she's just so powerful and strong. We'll wait for the lead change here. Hopefully it's coming in just a second. The rider's just going to go ahead and let her coast down the middle. There's the change right through the dogs, down through the middle of the racetrack. She was very high energy to start, idling a little bit in the late stages here, but again, we're coming up to the race. Don't want to do too much. 103-4 for her final work. The daughter of Kodiak. He stands at Tally-Ho in Ireland. He'll give you such a handy horse. He'll usually give you a smaller horse. Him and Maymas both stand there. And those offspring do so well in Florida. They do so well in Southern California. But she's just a big, strong type from the Kodiak line.
It always amazes me, though. You'll look at the final time, and it's not a quick final time yet, but yet these horses are rocket ships out of the gate. It just shows you the methodology behind it isn't always right there in front of you and rather obvious. Wesley Ward also has a couple of other horses to keep an eye on over the 2 championship days. We're going to now take a look at a couple of horses yesterday on the turf course here at Keeneland. One of them is Arrest Me Red.
Arrest Me Red also in the turf sprint division, exiting a 3rd place effort at Kentucky Downs in their turf sprint back on September the 10th. And then also No Nay Hudson. So Arrest Me Red on the inside here. No Nay Hudson from the outside. He's going to be the horse trying to make up a little bit of ground. Keep in mind, No Nay Hudson is a 2-year-old. So here he is working with the older 4-year-old, and he's going to go ahead and catch him up. I think this is interesting because if you look at the races for No Nay Hudson, he shows some speed and he makes the lead a little early, and then he backs off a touch in the late stages. I think ideally he's one of those horses that wants 4.5 or 5. So to work him from off the pace, from off the horse in front of him, I think they're trying to get him to settle a little bit because that's going to be his best opportunity to get the distance and to see it out against some of the others that are so quick in the juvenile sprint at the 5.5 furlongs. It's a subtle nuance, but for a horse like this, it does make a bit of a difference. He catches up with his workmate head and head as they finish up. Good work for them both. Arrest Me Red inside for Lyle Stables and No Nay Hudson, the son of No Nay Never, who Wesley trained. You see a lot of offspring of No Nay Never through the juvenile turf sprint, through the juvenile turf. A lot of those Euros that are coming are these horses from that very forward, very precocious sire line.
Wesley Ward is ready for the Breeders' Cup, and Gabby got that with more on preparations leading up to 2 championship days of racing.
Here with Mike Welsh, who's been clocking horses high atop the grandstand, excuse me. And Mike, I want to get your thoughts, first and foremost, on Flightline yesterday and what you saw?
Look, I've only seen him pretty much just on tape, although I did see him at Belmont before he won the Met Mile, and I'd never seen a horse gallop like he galloped the day before the Met Mile. I didn't see him work, but the gallop is terrific. Yesterday was the first time I actually got to see him work live, and I mean, you know, what more can you say? He was terrific. He just has that stride. He goes so easily. He did his last 3 ace in 34 and change, but you wouldn't know it just by watching him. I mean, you didn't it's just almost unperceptive when he picks up his speed, gallops out so strong, does it easily all the way around. I mean, it was terrific.
Well, we know that Flightline's going to be a very, very heavy favorite in the Classic, but who else has been training well in the Classic division, in your opinion?
I mean, Epicenter trained fine. I mean, in the mornings when he gallops, he's certainly not going to wow you watching him gallop, but his work was terrific, and he just saves it all for the afternoon. I mean, he's been, you know, coming up to this race, I guess, you know, from his form of his races and then watching that last work, it was good. He blew out this morning a half mile, but it was that typical Steve Asmussen, you know, just maintenance work a week before the race. So on paper and from his last work, I would say maybe he's the most likely upsetter of Flightline if that's possible, but I think Flightline is just too good for these.
Life is good, though. I think he's a very interesting horse because Todd's saying that he wants to give him another shot at 1.25 miles on a different racetrack than what he faced in Dubai. What's your perception of him leading into the Classic?
I mean, I get what he's saying. I mean, Dubai, the track was deep that day, and I think he deserves another chance off his record for the whole year. I've seen a lot of him in New York, especially at Saratoga. He is a morning all-star, or was a morning all-star all summer long, and even in the spring back at Belmont Park. His works here have been fine. His work last week, I thought, just definitely wasn't him. Didn't just show that energy on the gallop out, pulling the rider out of the saddle like he did at Belmont and Saratoga. Yesterday, I thought he was better. I mean, and you look at the numbers, the times he puts down, he actually galloped out 1 mile faster than Flightline. I thought he was better yesterday, but just perception-wise, and this is just my opinion, I just don't think he's quite the same horse, at least in the morning, that he showed me at Belmont and Saratoga earlier in the year. So he's had a bit of a hard campaign. Is he maybe not quite as good? It's hard to say. Just like, again, that's just my perception. He just doesn't seem to have pulling the rider out of the saddle like he did all year long. Again, like I said, he was a morning all-star. I mean, all season long, and at least coming into here from what I've seen.
Okay, one more question. Long shot. If you're taking a look at the card on Breeders' Cup weekend, is there one horse that might be a price that you think has been working really well?
Yeah, I love Blue Stripe. I love the way she worked here last week. I know on paper it's pretty hard to make her. I mean, the distaff is such a terrific race, and they've all been training good leading up to the race. Malathat next, Clariere. I mean, the works I've seen from them have all been good, and good horses work good. You sort of expect to see that here. I've never seen Blue Stripe work before, but, man, she just looks so good. She galloped out 1 mile, I think, in 38 and change, and just did it easily all the way around. So, again, from a workout standpoint, she's going to get a few of my dollars. Just, again, on paper, hard to make her, but from a workout, if you're doing this in the morning and you see something like that.
She's looked good.
And she's going to be 20-1, you know, you got to take a chance.
All right, Mike, always so insightful. Thank you for the time this morning.
My pleasure.
I first met Mike Welsh when I had a job at Calder Racecourse in South Florida back in 1992, so I've known him for about 30 years. As sharp as an opinion as you will find in that world of clocking. If you read his analysis, his clocker reports for the Daily Racing Form at Saratoga, he is spot on consistently. Pay attention to what he just told you there. Getting the attention of the world at the Breeders' Cup a number of years ago was the great Goldikova. When we return here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, we are going to revisit one of the greatest champions seen in 2 championship days of racing. It is the Breeders' Cup. Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, brought to you by Windstar Farm in Keeneland.
When the thoroughbred world descends upon Lexington this November, there is one place you need to be. The place where history comes alive with every championship victory.
He's authentic indeed.
The place where the future is built with the fall of a gavel. The place that exists to be the heart of this industry. The center of it all. Home to the November breeding stock sale and 2022 Breeders' Cup, Keeneland.
On FanDuel Casino, we make it easy to turn your site credit into real money. Unlike other casinos who make you wager your site credit over and over before you can withdraw it, we play fair. Just play through it once and you keep what you win. Turning all your site credit into real cash is that simple. Plus, you'll get paid your way, quickly and securely. Come see why FanDuel Casino promotions give you so much more than other online casinos. Join FanDuel Casino and play it again with up to $1,000 back if you're down on your first day.
Hey, big man.
Oh, hey.
Dave told me you got some kind of great system for betting that really works.
It's true.
What is it? Is it like home dogs? No. It's bird mascots.
No, I just use FanDuel's responsible gaming tools, like time and spending limits, to manage my play.
That's the system.
Hasn't failed me yet.
Cool. You know what, man? I'm just gonna keep this between you and me.
It's not a secret, Bob.
Every bettor has a system. Make FanDuel's responsible gaming tools a key part of yours. It's more fun that way.
It's time to bet the race, and FanDuel Racing has entered the starting gate. Download the FanDuel Racing app, and you're off. It's super easy to use from the start. Make every moment more with tools to help you win on the inside. Watch out for great promos and easy deposits. And here comes fast payouts. It's super easy to use. It's fast payouts. It's super easy. There's no doubt about it. The best place to bet is FanDuel Racing.
New customers bet the Breeders' Cup and get up to $100 back if your horse doesn't win.
Chase the day with Day Chaser Cocktails, the official ready-to-drink canned cocktail of Breeders' Cup.
Well, I might get to that cocktail hour early. Let's see on social media if some of you have already had the cocktail hour. I love hearing everyone's response when they see Flightline for the first time. I agree with you. You can get a little awestruck. Take a ride on Forte as he gallops around to Keeneland. Next stop, the at Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He's got to take on Cave Rock in there. Another breakfast at Breeders' Cup question is here. This one from at Gabby Godet. Answer us here, and you could be on at FanDuel TV in the morning. What information has the most weight when handicapping the Breeders' Cup Juvenile race? Here's my view from Larry Colmus next week for the Breeders' Cup calls at NBC with a special cameo there. I've been hanging out with Larry. In fact, he's going back to New Jersey and coming back this way. I would have to agree with this statement. Keeneland Racing is a fall dream, especially when you look at those pictures. Although it was a nightmare yesterday, the Headless Horseman made an appearance, which has become an annual tradition here at Keeneland. Amazing how realistic that looks. Speaking of a dream, Goldikova was a dream in the Breeders' Cup Mile. She won it 3 times. She became Europe's best horse in 2010. And along the way, she was guided brilliantly by her trainer, Freddie Head. He remembers the great Goldikova.
And what a brilliant filly is this! The Goldikova is just scintillating. Goldikova is something special. Goldikova, a true champion. 3 Breeders' Cup wins.
He won twice in Santa Anita and then at Churchill Downs once. But of course, in America, all the mile, it's a bit the same because the race courses are about the same. But still, it's a different race, which makes it a bit more difficult to handle. I think it was the first one. I think she was at her best then. It was a great race with Pelli, I remember riding a fantastic race. Waiting.
Goldikova waiting patiently for room, nowhere to go. Here's Precious Kitten, the other filly running a big one, and Kipteville the grey. Kipteville is let loose, but Goldikova goes through at the rail. And look at the acceleration from Goldikova as she bursts forward. And what a brilliant filly is this, Goldikova, in an awesome effort.
I know there was a bit of pressure the second year, and the third year too, of course, because going for a third time.
Goldikova in the white cap, hooked to the extreme outside. Courageous Cat gets the lead, but Goldikova is coming home like an express train down the centre. Courageous Cat running a huge one. Goldikova's going to have to switch out a little. She does so though. Coming with a late run, just enough humour. But Goldikova is just scintillating. Goldikova is something special. Goldikova and Olivia Pallier win it again.
Winning at Churchill was really special because it's the birthplace of races. It's the big breeding place, Kentucky and Louisville.
Now Goldikova's unwinding her run in the centre of the track. Goldikova's let loose, she's flying. Sydney's Candy, the usual QT's in there as well. But Goldikova
and she was placed the 4th time.
This year we are with Goldikova. If she can pull it off, 4 straight Breeders' Cup wins, that would be fantastic.
She had 4 runs in the Breeders' Cup. She was 3rd the 4th time.
It's Goldikova in the race of her life. Turaroo, Court Vision gonna outrun her. Turaroo on the outside. Goldikova, what a magnificent run. She almost got there.
Those memories bring a lot back. You can remember where you were when Goldikova was running. There has been previous horses who have won more than 1 Breeders' Cup Mile, but no one like Goldikova. And sadly, we lost her just last year back in January. Joining us now here on the set is Rishi Prasad, and I always drop his name when I'm watching Wimbledon. You did a great job this past year, but I tell people, I'm like, I work with him. I get to work with him at the Breeders' Cup. You were brilliant again. Goldikova, looking back, one of the best milers Europe's ever had here?
Quite simply, yes. When you consider the fact that we often say that horses, well, historically, horses that do very well in Europe, in order to prove themselves real worldwide champions, they have to go to another territory. They have to go somewhere else and prove it somewhere to, I believe, be recognised as an international champion. To do it once is something that a lot of people would say that would last a lifetime in terms of memories. To do it twice would be almost a dream. To do it a 3rd time is just not right. I mean, it's just incredible, her career. She is one of the all-time greats.
3-time winner of the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Mile, a career record of 17 wins from 27 starts. And let's talk about the European contingent coming over this year for the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Mile. Kinross was at British Champions Day last time out, winning the sprint. How good was that win?
That was an outstanding win. Obviously, he's proved himself a top-class horse over 7 furlongs, and that has been his trip. 7 furlongs, a sort of space blues horse that can stretch out to a mile here in America. That's been the dream. But interestingly enough, his trainer, Rafe Beckett, has always felt that he's got the speed for 6 furlongs at Ascot. It was a stiff 6 furlongs, plus the fact there was cut in the ground. Now, that's an important factor when talking about Kinross. The fact that he enjoys a bit of cut in the ground. His best form has come with some juice in the ground, and this was really impressive, the way he just sprinted away. Frankie Dettori actually said after the race he was going so well, he ideally wanted to wait a bit longer, but he said, I was going so well, I had to go. I had to do what I did, and I ended up putting on that distance between himself and the rest of the rivals. The hard thing for Kinross, though, Todd, is the fact that he's run in the Arc weekend. He won the foray at Arc weekend. He's then gone to win on Champions Day at Ascot. And now we're asking him another big question. Now, I understand he's won those 2 races on Champions Day and Arc Weekend easily enough, but I don't think it should be underestimated just how much those events take out of the horses. Were he to prove successful here in the Breeders' Cup Mile, that would be quite an outstanding achievement.
What do you make of how Modern Games comes in? Because on that subject of travel, he came to North America. He was brilliant in the Woodbine Mile. Then he goes back overseas to run on British Champions Day, and now he's back here. Is that a lot to ask of Modern Games?
It is a lot to ask of Modern Games. I guess the interesting thing about him is that last season, it felt to me like he thrived on his racing as a 2-year-old. And it seems to me like he's thriving on his racing once again in the latter part of 2022, as it did in 2021. I don't think, and Charlie Appleby's quite open about this, that the QE2 at Champions Day at Ascot was part of the original plan, but because of the makeup of the field, Baid, of course, went for the Champion Stakes. There was an opportunity there. The ground went against him. William Buick felt that all the way through the race, he was always half a stride off his usual pace. But the one thing you cannot deny about Modern Games is his wonderful attitude. He's a real terrier. He's the type of horse that I'm sure William Buick loves to ride. It's almost a case of, you hold on to me, and then when you say go, I'm ready to go. He tried so hard here, and he got run down by Bayside Boy on the far side, who was an interesting contender. But Modern Games is, you know, he's a seasoned traveller, and I'm sure he's going to be in the thick of it again.
A horse that you could not hide how excited you were. That was this morning, talking about Highfield Princess. Do you think this is one of Europe's best chances? I mean, obviously, they're going to win multiple races. We know that. But, I mean, Highfield Princess, you were big on this horse this morning.
I love this horse. It took them 23 runs. She ran 23 times over 7 furlongs and above before they even decided to have a go at sprint distances. She ended up running over 6 furlongs. Then she actually went back to 7. Then she dropped back to 5 for a handicap, which is a low-grade race in comparison to what we're looking at. This is a Group 1 in Ireland, the Flying 5. So it took quite a while before she hit her stride, so to speak, as a sprinter. But when it happened, she has proved to be high level, one of the best sprinters we've seen in recent times. This Flying 5 success in Ireland, coming off the back of winning the Nunthorpe at York, and also winning the race in France, the Maurice de Guise, an incredible stretch of success that came in a relatively short space of time. And then they had lots of options. They could have gone to Champions Day at Ascot, they could have gone for the Abbey, but they held off specifically for the Breeders' Cup. I think that will really serve her well, the fact that she's still relatively fresh. And listening to Con Foley speaking this morning.
He was great.
His first time in America, but he's saying how pretty relaxed she is down at the quarantine barn. He said there's a lot going on there, but she's got a lovely tempo and a lovely temperament, which at the moment is serving her well. I think she's a massive player. I respect Golden Pal hugely on his own turf, but she's a big danger.
The big prize is the Breeders' Cup turf on Saturday. Looking at Mishirif last time out in the Arc, what do you take away from that performance in the now trying to come back here?
I think the Arc run, Todd, if I'm being entirely honest about it, I think that's you get your pen and you put a line through that. Just forget about that Arc run. Ground was against him. The entire setup of the race was against him. It was a really grueling race. However, William Buick, who rode him that day, was pretty gentle on him when he knew that his chance had gone. So I'm happy to forgive that run. Frankie Dettori confirmed that he'll be riding Mishirif in the Breeders' Cup turf. He is a top-class horse. The question is, and it's a simple one, is do you believe that the Mishirif of 2022 is in any way the Mishirif that we've seen over the last 2 seasons? His record internationally is outstanding. He won the Saudi Cup, went on from winning the Saudi Cup to win the Shima Classic. The Saudi Cup, of course, over 9 furlongs on dirt. The Shima Classic, 1.5 miles on turf. Then 10 furlongs of the Juddmonte International, all in the same season. Of course, as a 3-year-old, he won the French Derby. I think he's earned just shy of £12 million, which is not as much as it used to be in old money.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely certain that the Mishirif this season is quite as good as the one that we've seen in the last 2 seasons, and that's the big debate for me.
And then there is Rebels Romance, and as we've talked about, Charles Appleby loves the Breeders' Cup.
Well, 6 from 11. 6 winners from 11 starts. I mean, that's just outstanding already. And Rebels Romance is a really interesting runner for Charlie Appleby. Obviously, Nation's Pride, we can understand why people will be attracted to him. But Rebels Romance, when he won the UAE Derby in 2021, there was thought of a crack of taking this horse for a classic campaign in America. And there was talk about him running in the Belmont. That never developed. And naturally, we thought that when he went back to Dubai in 2022, he would be a Dubai World Cup horse, and he was campaigned like that for his first 2 races. But something just fell apart in terms of his dirt form. This was pretty impressive. Again, the quality of the field isn't that great, but he was possibly a Dubai World Cup contender at this point for Charlie Appleby. Scrap that. He goes back to Europe, runs on the turf at Newmarket. He wins 1 race, then he wins another race on turf. And then Charlie Appleby suddenly starts thinking, I might have a decent horse on my hands here over 1.5 miles. He goes to Germany and he wins 2 Group 1s. Well, the last horse from England who went to Germany back last in 2021 who did that was Alpinista. She turned out all right. She won the Arc. Well, Rebels Romance is kind of this season's Alpinista. And Charlie Appleby's had the idea to come to the Breeders' Cup turf, you know, when he won that first Group 1 in Germany. I think he's really interesting because he's a horse who still remains unexposed over 1.5 miles on turf. So the fact that Charlie Appleby has pointed him in the direction of the Breeders' Cup turf is enough for people to say, I respect his chances enormously.
How much does the ground matter to either of these 2 horses you've just told us about? We're supposed to get a lot of rain here later today. Then it's supposed to be fine the rest of the week. What type of turf course would either of these horses prefer?
Rebels Romance so far has proven himself on a variety of trips of ground. He's won a good to firm. He's won with cut in the ground as well. Mishirif, funny, I mean, he won on soft ground. He won the French Derby on soft ground. He won as a 2-year-old on soft ground. but I think his best form comes on just good ground. As long as he gets good ground and he's allowed to stretch out and he feels comfortable enough to stretch out on good ground, I think that suits him perfectly. I don't think he'd want it too soft. I think it's very unlikely we're going to get you know it better than me. I think it's very unlikely we'll get those sort of conditions here. But going back to some of the horses we spoke about earlier, the likes of Kinross, they would want more rain. The more rain that comes for Kinross, the better his chances.
These are some of the European stars on Saturday. It's a Future Stars Friday, and there are some outstanding 2-year-olds that have come over here. It's amazing to think that 2-year-olds can sprint for a purse of $1 million, but that's what we have in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. How good is the Platinum Queen?
Well, she's not quite sprinted for $1 million in Europe, but she's sprinted for close to that because she's run in all-aged Group 1 races for sprinters. She won the Abbaye, which is an all-age race. She was the first 2-year-old to win this race since 1978, and many others have tried. But she got the rail. Now, this is the important thing for me about the Platinum Queen. If she has the rail to run against, she is going to prove a hard horse to beat. I think that is key to her. She's hung left in a couple of her races, and that's cost her. She actually was second to Highfield Princess in the Nunthorpe at York, where she led. She was down the middle of the track, and then when she came under pressure, she wanted to go left, and she ended up on the rail. Prior to that, she'd won at Goodwood, where she came out against the rail, and she hugged that left-hand side rail all the way down the straight at Goodwood, and she was mightily impressive. When she comes under pressure, she wants to go left, so if she's in the middle of the track and she doesn't get the best draw, then that will be an issue for her. The other issue for Platinum Queen is she's never been round a bend, which is obviously a major factor considering the quality of opposition she'll be against. But what is not in question is her blistering speed.
Okay, going to bring it back to Saturday for a moment with the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. Every time I see and say her name, Nashwa, I want to say Nashwan, one of the greats of all time. But Nashwa comes in, the 3-year-old daughter of Frankel. Is it realistic to see her take on older horses in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf and beat them?
Yes, I think so. She's an outstanding filly. She has looked very good. She's shown lots of speed. She won, actually, first time out in 2022 over a mile, and then she stepped up in distance. And this race, obviously, the Nassau Stakes at Goodwood, she won over a mile and 2. The field, the quality of this field, not perhaps at its best. The horse on the inside, Dream Loper, may be lining up against her, or might be the mile. I think mile's first preference for Dream Loper. So there is that angle, and Dream Loper's won a couple of Group 1s. Nashwa is generally a horse that travels very kindly through her races. So I think the way the race is going to be run, generally the way Breeders' Cup races are run, would suit her. She's also got to turn her foot, and as long as she gets clear sailing in the straight, I think she's a massive player. She's got loads of class. She came to win the Oaks. There was a chance where it looked as if she was going to put in a winning bid in the Oaks, but she just ran out of stamina over a mile and a half at Epsom. So I think the distance would suit her here. She obviously won the French Oaks and she won the Nassau, those races over 10 furlongs, and she was a little bit unlucky in the Opera when she finished second. She had a wide draw, she had to work hard to get to the lead, and she just ran out of gas late on. I think with a cleaner run and a better draw, she was the best filly in the race.
Nashwa, daughter of Frankel, so can I do it? I've got to go down this road. So most of the year, the debate was, does Baid belong with Frankel as far as one of the all-time European greats? Now that we've had the end of this career, disappointing end to Baid with that final start, where did you stand on this whole Baid-Frankel debate?
Nowhere near, I'm afraid, Frankel. But that's because Frankel is in a completely different stratosphere. And I know originally at the start of this entire conversation, Todd, I said a horse had to go and travel abroad to prove themselves an international champion. The reason why Frankel is an all-time great is because he's the exception to the rule. Because he's a horse that didn't have to track. Every time he turned up on the track, he produced figures that were outstanding. Every time. So you don't have to go anywhere else, really, to prove yourself, because he did that 12 times. He delivered performances that were of the highest level. Baid, I think there's one standout performance from Baid, which was when he beat Mishrif in the Juddmonte International. That was superb. The way Jim Crowley, his rider, was able to pull him back when he wanted to go a little bit further, and he gave them a bit of a start, and he took off, and Mishrif was 6 lengths behind him. So, bearing in mind that I've just doubted whether Mishrif is as good in 2022 as he was previously, I have to say that whilst Baid is one of the best horses that we have seen since Frankel, he is streets apart from Frankel and See the Stars, who I'd also have ahead of Baid, obviously the sire of Baid, See the Stars. So he's one of the best horses we've seen in recent times, but he's not going to enter the debate for all-time great.
Okay, so we're having this debate right now in this country because of Flightline. Lightly raced, just 5 for 5. There's so much out there that he could accomplish, but if he dominated the Breeders' Cup Classic, maybe he doesn't need to be considered amongst the all-time greats. Aside from what we're talking about here in the United States with Flightline, what is the view overseas about this great American champion? Is he being talked about as one of the greats over there?
He is. There was quite a lot of chat back in the UK, certainly, when we saw Flightline rated as the top racehorse in the world at the same time that Baid was still unbeaten. We were having the own thoughts, well, if they were Baid, he's still a champion. He's never been beaten, and he's run against better horses. He's got a deeper career CV at that point. But, of course, he's got beaten, and we saw what Flightline did to Country Grammar. You know, a Dubai World Cup winner, was it 19 lengths?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just out of this world good. And the respect that we have for Flightline is at the highest level. I cannot wait to see him in the flesh. I just saw the tweet that you mentioned about when people see him for the first time. He is down near where the quarantine barn is for the international, so I'm looking forward to crossing paths with the mighty Flightline at some point over the next few days. I've heard it all. I want to see it for real. And obviously, it's a good field, obviously, the Classic. If he can dismiss Life is Good in the same manner as he did something like Country Grammar, then I'm sure you guys will be talking about Secretariat.
Boy, that is territory that I always wanted to stay away from. He's up here on the pedestal and the original Big Red Man of War. But I will say this, Rishi Prasad, you are a wonder. See all these notes that I have? Everything he just told you, there's no paper here. This is all right up here.
It's like Tony Stark, Iron Man. It's all behind my glasses.
All bespectacled. Thank you, my friend. Rishi Prasad, part of our breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. We have Joaquin Jaime with a guy who makes the most of his opportunities at the Breeders' Cup. That's trainer Wayne Catalano.
Trainer Wayne Catalano has 15 Breeders' Cup starters, 4 Breeders' Cup wins on his resume, and 3 horses are going to be running in the Breeders' Cup this year. One of them is right behind us on the wash rack. That is your 2-year-old, and the winner is. He was the 4-1 favorite in the Bourbon, and here in your comments before the race, you were incredibly confident. Why did he give you so much confidence going into his last race?
Well, the way he was training and the way he come up with that race in Saratoga, I thought this set him right up for this race. You know, his first time 2 turns on the soft turf course. The bias was, you know, they went around there 1, 2, 3, slow pace, and he ran huge. You know, I thought it was a real big effort. And after that, coming in here, I was confident in the way he was working and training, so had to be happy about that.
And how's he working and training out of that race now going into the juvenile turf?
He's doing great. I'm very happy with the way he's training. He looks great. He's training great, so everything's good.
You have 2 in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. We'll start with Maniwa, 17-1 upset winner in his most recent start. He surprised the public in the Phoenix. Did he surprise you?
Actually, he didn't. Coming off his last race, he's showing that his, you know, he come back to his buyer numbers, and he come back with a big race. And 2 years ago, he should have won the Breeders' Cup, I thought. And the way he was training to come into the race, I was happy with him. Of course, I don't know he was going to win, but I did like him going into the race. And he's training great right now. I mean, the horse has really got a lot of confidence, and he's doing everything you can ask a horse to do. And he's a very happy horse, and training unbelievable.
You do bring back a Breeders' Cup winner, a Breeders' Cup Sprint winner last year in Aloha West for Eclipse Thoroughbreds. He's coming in here off a 4-month layoff. When did it become realistic in your mind that you were going to run in the Breeders' Cup?
Well, you know what? Once I looked it over, I said, well, he's got enough time, maybe. And we just kept going with him and see day by day, race, work by work. And, you know, if he's working good and doing good, we might pull a trigger, which we still might do. It all looks like we're going to run, but I'm going to work one more time. Hopefully I can get one squeezed in with this rain coming. But I'm very happy with the way he worked the other day.
Well, you don't have too much time to squeeze that work in. When do you think you're going to work Aloha West?
On the next day or 2.
Wayne, we always appreciate the time. When are you going to head and over to Rice Road and move everybody over here?
Probably tomorrow we're going to ride him over.
All right, appreciate the time. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. All right, guys.
I want him to make breakfast one morning at Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. Amazing trainer and probably even a better cook as well. Wayne Catalano, good luck in the Breeders' Cup this year. Welcoming back onto our set now here, just off the winner's circle, Christina Blacker. And we talk about all the knowledge we get here from Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. I get the knowledge from all of you. Rishi Prasad, amazing.
And he doesn't have any notes.
I know. I kept looking around.
This binder full of
People saw me
information
turning
and all
this
my
like
stuff
this.
that I've been scratching down
Yeah.
for weeks. This is all up here for him.
Andy Biancone in that same mold.
Todd, as we are out here awaiting turf workers, I'm here with outrider Paige Spangler, who, by the way, had an incredible catch yesterday. I don't know if anyone noticed when Cape Trafalgar got loose. Paige literally reached over behind her back and grabbed the horse. There's a really cool picture. I'll share it later online. But Paige, how do you feel about the Breeders' Cup going on? Do you feel like there's more pressure or anything?
After the catch yesterday, I feel really good going into the Breeders' Cup. I'm not going to lie to you. But, yeah, I can't wait. My first Breeders' Cup.
What are some of the things you do as an outrider to make sure everyone's safe out here?
Just, you know when something's kind of going wrong with a rider. So we just try to keep our eyes open for that kind of stuff. Unless they're calling for us or something, we just let them do their thing. But, you know, they're good at their job. When they do call us, we try to be right on it and get them pulled up so nothing happens. But other than that, it's just observing.
So far, I mean, you've seen tons of Breeders' Cup horses train out here every morning for, I mean, this week and for the beginning of the meet. Is there a horse that has stood out to you the most so far?
I'd be a little biased if I didn't say Life is Good. But, yeah, Life is Good. He always looks like great. It's amazing to see Flightline work in person. I've heard a lot about him. I had some friends ride him when he was in Kentucky, and to see him gallop in person was great. Hot Rod Charlie, too. He's here for the summer.
Didn't you used to gallop Life is Good when he was a baby, when you worked for WinStar as well?
When I first started galloping, yeah, I worked at WinStar, and Life is Good was a yearling. They were just getting broke. I rode him a little bit as a 2-year-old. Then he went to Baffert's. Now, after Breeders' Cup last year, I R&R'd him for about 2 months, I guess, at the farm in the spring, this spring. So I think it's cool. I get to work a Breeders' Cup and got to ride a horse that's in it this year, that was a good goal setter.
What's your pony's name?
This is Curly.
Curly, well, Paige, thank you so much to you and Curly for your services here. I'm excited to watch Life is Good. I know you are too, and keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Cinch seems really affected by all of that. When I come back as a pony horse, I want to be Cinch. 20 years old and out there with some of the best on the track. And Andy Biancone and Cinch, we thank you for all the reports you've bringing us here, trackside at Keeneland. And
Andy's right about that catch. Did you see the picture of that catch?
I haven't seen it.
She caught the horse around this way, riding her own horse that way, and then managed to grab a loose horse behind her back.
Oh, I am going to go check that out now. And remember, Andy's going to put that on social media. Let's go back to Churchill Downs and Caton Bradar.
Jade Cunningham is one of the assistants for trainer Dallas Stewart and has been working a lot with his Breeders' Cup juvenile filly contender, Sabra Tough. Jade, I have to ask you, is she true to her name? What kind of a filly is she? Is she tough?
She, fortunately, to gallop, she's not too bad. But in her stall, they like to call her the land shark. They'll be like, someone will come in to see her and be like, "Where's the land shark at?" So she's tough in that she's tough in life, but to gallop, fortunately, she's very kind, knows her job, very professional.
She had her workout a little earlier in the week, last week. Tell me how she's doing coming into the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, so super good. First day back, jogging today, just very full of herself. She knows something's coming. She's really funny because like I said, she's super easy. But I took her on the track today and she jumps up in the air and squeals. So she knows something big is coming. And we have her, Dallas has her as ready as we can. So we're excited.
You're going to be going with her over to Keeneland when she gets over there. All the Breeders' Cup horses have to be there on Tuesday. And I know you're really excited. I've seen your social media, and you've posted saddle towels and the whole Breeders' Cup experience. And I think you even posted on Facebook how you've had the opportunity now with her to work with 3 Breeders' Cup horses. Talk a little about that excitement and what that's like for you.
Yeah, so I don't come from a racing family, so to be at a 3rd Breeders' Cup is just nuts. The first one, I wasn't even working for the trainer, and he came and asked me to go, and the trainer that I had worked for about 6 years that I was currently working for, he's like, "Go, that's fine." I was like, "It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." And then a couple years later, the trainer I had been working for at that time, Danny Pish, he called me. I wasn't even on the track, and he's like, "Do you want to go with one of our horses?" I was like, "Yes." So to be with a horse that I've been with her leading into the race is a new experience experience and very exciting, and I'm just so overwhelmingly grateful that Dallas has kept me with her and allowed me to, you know, stay on her and gallop her and go over there. But like I said, I'm not from a racing family, or even I'm from Tennessee. We don't even have racing there, so such a huge blessing to get to do it. I'm beyond excited. No words. No words.
You thought it was going to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and now it's turned into 3, and she comes out just to give you a little reminder. So
there's a little shark. There she is. No. No, she usually won't actually bite, but she's gotten going into this race. She's just, like, she usually will fake it, and now she's obviously not.
She's not faking and not messing around. And Jade, it'll be fun to watch her over there at Keeneland. Best of luck.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it, guys.
It's what this is about. Dreams coming true and staying out of the way of the land shark.
The land shark.
Yeah, another part to that story is how she's talking about she didn't really come from a racing family, and I'm hearing more and more stories like that. It seems to me like our sport is breaking through, and people are finding it's a career path that maybe they didn't expect, even if they didn't have that horse racing background.
I think there are so many ways of getting in as well, and there's so many different jobs available in horse racing that if you have any kind of interest and if you're hardworking, as it sounds like Jade is, the opportunities are definitely there. And she should be proud of the fact that she's been recognized by all of those trainers that she's worked for as someone that would be trustworthy and passionate enough to go to the Breeders' Cup. That's a lot of responsibility, and clearly she has that interest. Amplify Horse Racing is one of those programs that puts together a mentorship program. If you don't have any connection to horse racing and you want a mentor that is in the industry, definitely check out their website. They'll pair you up with someone. You have regular Zoom meetings with them, and then they can hopefully introduce you to the right people to get your foot in the door.
We can both vouch for it. Working in horse racing is awesome. So, yeah, if you can find a career path here, we invite you to come and join the family that is Thoroughbred Racing. We will be back with more Breeders' Cup and the breakfast show. A reminder that we'd like you to reach out to us on social media. Some of you have remarking about the sunset here at Keeneland. Certainly the perfect lighting for all of us. The sunrise, the sunset at Keeneland, some of the most beautiful scenic views you will find at any racetrack in the world. More breakfast at the Breeders' Cup brought to you by WinStar Farm and Keeneland on FanDuel TV after this.
Oscar knows basketball. Oscar knows Kentucky fans are crazy. Oscar knows God is great.
Life is Good now moves down to the inside, and they're coming for the finish. It is Life is Good still in front. Life is Good is the winner.
Oscar knows life is good.
Trade Storm to win the Rico Woodbine Mile.
She's going to do it. Simple Verse has won the Ledger.
Snake Nick Spear and Asheen Murphy get through and have won.
It's getting really tight. The star of the season, drawing line.
The purple cap, Kamiko the far side of him. Kamiko's won. The other midline, Mongostina has just won it with Mosse.
Ocean Road after going to Vegas. Ocean Road.
Undefeated Grade 1 winner Mastery was a multiple graded stakes winner at 2, including this victory in the Grade 1 Los Alamitos Cash Call Futurity. Now his progeny are bringing top dollar in the sales rate. On the track, his recent top runners include these star performers.
2 very game fillies, neither one of them will give an inch. Midnight Memory's going to outstay her. Midnight Memories won the Torrey Pines.
Mastery, standing at Claiborne Farm.
This is a Kentucky Thoroughbred. This is a Kentucky-built Powerfoil industrial fan. Like a Thoroughbred, it too delivers unrivaled performance. And while they both run with purpose and pride, this one runs to keep your workforce feeling cool and comfortable. Powerfoil, the best-selling big fan in the world. BigFans.com. Exceptionally engineered.
Maximum Security proves he's the real deal with a gate-to-wire win in the Florida Derby.
Champion 3-year-old.
Maximum Security has won the TVG.com Haskell Invitational.
11 triple-digit bias.
Maximum Security. He smoked them in the Cigar Mile.
Grade 1 winning 4-year-old.
Maximum Security takes them all the way in the TVG Pacific Classic.
Secure your mare's future. Maximum Security.
Looking to give your handicapping game a sharper focus? RaceLens is the most in-depth product in horse racing, with unique features found nowhere else. Customized PPs, summary and individual research, handicapping angles and back testing, true odds predictive analysis, and pace projection. With innovative analytics powered by data from Equibase, it will change the way you follow horse racing and take your game to the next level. RaceLens, bringing clarity to handicapping. Learn more at equibase.com/racelens.
And Gunrunner, they've been battling since the gates opened. Gunrunner's got the lead. Collected West Coast is bearing down on them on the outside. Final 16. Gunrunner reaching for the wire. Collected's alongside. And then comes West Coast and War Story. But Gunrunner's on top of the world. He wins the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Well, Gunrunner lived in the shadow of Arrogate for so long, and then he got the spotlight all to himself, and then he took off to another level after his racing career, which was great in and of itself. He is one of the hottest sires in the world and well represented here at the Breeders' Cup. Gunrunner, a number of his progeny, and the sire of CyberKnife, as well as Society and the Distaff. CyberKnife, though, a horse that they had to decide where they wanted to go. Thoughts of maybe the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, ultimately into the mile.
It looks like it's going to be the dirt mile. We heard from Brad Cox kind of leaning in that direction earlier this week. We showed you that piece back from the Dubai World Cup where it was Arrogate and Gunrunner, and now to see this year how well represented they both are in this Breeders' Cup as the sire of so many top competitors. It's kind of nice to go back and relive one of their greatest moments together and see what they're able to do now.
Let's bring you a Breeders' Cup profile of CyberKnife.
CyberKnife has put away Kavad, but he has to deal with Secret Oath in the center. Then comes Barber Road, a final furlong. CyberKnife, here comes Secret Oath on the outside. She's still 2 lengths behind. CyberKnife, Secret Oath is not going to get by. The Arkansas Derby winner, and his name is CyberKnife.
Arkansas Derby was a big race. Obviously a really good filly was third there. Ended up winning the Kentucky Oaks, but that was his first grade 1. That ultimately cemented his opportunity to be a stallion, so it worked out. That was a huge victory, and you know, it didn't work out in the Kentucky Derby, but the Arkansas Derby was a very good day for him.
And they're off in the TVG.com Haskell.
He ran big in the Haskell. I mean, obviously saved some ground. Flightline did a good job, kept him to the inside. He's able to get up, beat a very good horse in Taba, and it was a grade 1 winning performance. He's very proud of it.
Just behind them, CyberKnife, and then Taba. They turn for home. It's Jack Christopher in front. Howling time. Taba switches to the outside, and he's now putting in a strong bid. And here comes Taba. Taba in the center of the track with good-looking stride, squares off with CyberKnife. CyberKnife takes the lead. Taba going with him. These two in a thriller. CyberKnife just in front, and CyberKnife has won the TVG.com Haskell over Taba.
Flo, you've had some brilliant rides. That might have been one of your finest. You took the bravest way home up the fence. Talk us through the trip.
No, it's great. It's always a lot easier when you have confidence on your horse, and when you feel the power underneath you, you feel like you can go anywhere, and you are not going to get trapped anywhere. So I was very pleased with him. Honestly, I'm very proud of him. He's a gifted horse.
He's improved a lot. In his 2-year-old season, he was a handful and has been challenging at times. But I would say over the last 3-4 months, he's really grown up mentally a tremendous amount. Peppermints. That's kind of our barn treat, but he loves peppermints.
CyberKnife, a son of Gunrunner, who will be in the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Our show started with the anticipation of the Steve Asmussen runners. We've been waiting to see Epicenter. We also got a chance to see Society this morning. Let's look back at the efforts which happened real early before we came on the air, starting with Society, who kind of works in the way that she runs. She likes to get out to the lead and dominate her competition. Now, in the case of Steve Asmussen, as we heard with Mike Welsh, not fast times. They're not looking to go a half mile in 46 flat, even though she probably wanted to do that.
Yeah, she does. She's very tough in her works, and she really grabs the bit, and she does this sort of lean as they come out onto the turn because she really is pulling so hard against the rider. This is how she is. She's a very forward horse. She's a very sharp horse. She's one that wants to show you that speed. You would be worried if she didn't act this way. You would be concerned if she wasn't as aggressive, if she wasn't pulling the rider as much, if he wasn't having to throttle her down the way he is. And she even grabs a hold of the bit as they go through the wire as well. Just as much energy at the end of her work as she was showing at the beginning. She's still fighting him a little bit out there. She's feeling good. She's on the improve. And to me, looking like she might be coming into a peak performance. She's kind of under the radar, too. This is what you get at the Breeders' Cup. She's 5 for 6 lifetime. She's never done anything wrong outside of her effort in the coaching club behind Nest and Secret Oath.
A rising 3-year-old filly in the Longines Breeders' Cup Distaff. Society looking great this morning for trainer Steve Asmussen. Then there is his big 3-year-old male, talking about Epicenter, the son of Not This Time, who comes off back-to-back wins, including the Grade 1 Travers. Will try older horses for the first time in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, but for everybody, it's about going through Flightline. And here is a look at Epicenter under the cover of darkness at Keeneland.
I think it's interesting to see the approach that a lot of the trainers who have these top 3-year-olds have taken in relation to Flightline. CyberKnife is a horse that you weren't expecting to see in the Pennsylvania Derby, and that was a bit of a last-minute decision from Brad Cox, and he said that week going in, and I think it's because everybody saw what Flightline did at the TVG Pacific Classic and said, okay, here we go, we have a chance at $1 million for 3-year-olds. Let's leave it all out on the table because we know this monster is waiting for us. Steve Asmussen took the other approach. He has so much confidence in this horse. He said, hold on, I'm going to sit back. I'm going to give myself this 8 weeks, and I'm going to get this horse as good as I can possibly get him. You know he's kind. You know he'll rate. You know he'll relax. If Life is Good takes it to Flightline, maybe Steve's thinking, I need the best horse that's sitting that pocket trip if these horses somehow undo each other on the front end.
Or could this be a movie that Steve Asmussen and the rest of us have seen before? Good horse sits in the shadow of great horse then retires, good horse then becomes great horse. Talking about Gunrunner and Arrogate. Arrogate dominated him, and then it just took that other year. Arrogate goes away, Gunrunner becomes better over the course of the next year, and then he's the horse at the top of the heap. Is it just bad timing for Epicenter that here he is enjoying a great 3-year-old campaign and he's got to go through Flightline?
It's bad timing for everybody.
Yeah, it is, right. And I say this, you know, we don't know what is ultimately going to happen with Flightline, but if he runs next year, well, then they're all in the shadow of him again, it would seem. But
And if he runs next year, I mean, it's the 3 big races that you think for so much money, right? It's the Pegasus, it's the Dubai World Cup, it's the Saudi Cup. Those races come pretty fast in succession. Flightline, to me, as the way they've been spacing out his races, wouldn't be a horse that would go for all 3. You might get 2 if they decide to continue on with him. So maybe Asmussen is thinking that way. This horse had a very ambitious 3-year-old campaign so far. He didn't miss any of the dances. Let's back off a little bit coming into the Breeders' Cup, and let's still feel fresh going into 2023.
Yesterday, it was Joaquin Jaime who told you the story behind the name of Tyler's Tribe. We've also just been talking about the workouts and whether or not he likes the turf. Standing by with his trainer is Joaquin.
Yeah, Todd, thank you very much. Here with trainer Tim Martin, who brings in the undefeated Iowa-bred Tyler's Tribe. And Tim, this is a horse that is a perfect 5 for 5. He's won his races by nearly 60 lengths. What sort of impression has this horse left on you through 5 races so far?
Oh, he's been incredible. Every race, he's just kind of over the top. He's exceeded our expectations every race by winning so far, and the competition he's had, he's done well.
So there was never a hint of any sort of talent like this that he showed you in the mornings prior to his races?
No, he never did. He never was a very good workhorse. He always, he always worked decent, and with other horses he'd work good. But in company he would do well. But at the farm he work good with older horses. But when he raced, I expect him to be good, but not as good as he was.
He's had 2 workouts on the turf course here at Keeneland Racecourse. What have you seen in those 2 turf drills for Tyler's Tribe?
Well, the first time he was kind of checking things out. He was jumping the cones and kind of out there playing. And then yesterday when I breezed him again, he worked really well. Worked at 38 and 20 and done it good. And the rider, Kylie Jordan, she was happy with him.
So you're deciding between the juvenile turf sprint and the FanDuel Juvenile on the dirt. What went into the thought process for you and the team to decide to run on the turf?
Well, Tyler has never run long. I didn't have no place to put him in Iowa to race him long. So we decided to go short because I know he's fast. I know he's got a lot of speed, danger speed. And so I hate to jump into the Breeders' Cup, going a mile 16th and never run long because it's a tough race.
We shared Tyler's story with everyone here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup recently. How special do you think this would be if this horse ran a bang-up race in the Breeders' Cup for Tyler?
Oh, I think he'd be great. I think he will. He's a really good horse, and the story's great. Everything's been great. So, yeah, if he does that, that would just be incredible.
Well, Tim, we appreciate the time. Good luck to you in the Breeders' Cup.
Hey, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right, guys, that is the undefeated Iowa bred right here, Tyler's Tribe. He'll be making his turf debut in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. Let's now go to Gabby Gaudet.
Joaquin, thank you. And I'm actually here in a very empty jocks room, of course. Racing ended yesterday. They're going to Churchill Downs for a couple of days before we bring it back here for the Breeders' Cup on Friday and Saturday. So we're going to go in a couple different jockeys' corners. Now, they've cleared a lot out, but I've heard that this is Johnny V and Joel's corner. So let's take a peek at what's in the locker here. We have some limes. We actually have a bag of limes. Interesting. I did talk to Johnny, and I asked him what his go-to snack was. So these are definitely his oranges. He said he likes oranges. Keep it healthy. Although I do see a cheeky little piece of chocolate in here. If you're wondering what deodorant Joel Rosario wears, sorry, Joel. Speed Stick, Ocean Surf. Nice flavor there. All right, let's go back this way. And we're going to go to Shane Burrell, the valet's corner. And he has Tyler, Brian, Corey. Actually, you know what? Let's give Tyler a call and see if he'll answer to maybe go through some of the stuff that's in the locker. Let's see. Let's see what's in here. We got, hey, Tyler, you busy? Okay. We're in your corner and your locker. You got to tell, I would just have one question. Do you use this Tresemme?
Maybe on big days if I'm not able to wear a hat, but normally I put on a hat. Corey's the hair product guy.
Okay, Corey Lannery does the hair product. What about this Febreze? I actually heard a rumor that you have the nicest smelling helmet in the jocks room. Is this true?
You'd have to ask my valet, but all the credit goes to my wife, Cassie. She keeps me smelling fresh.
Okay, thank you, Cassie. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Tyler. All right, we're going to hang up here. That's just a little insight as to what's going on here inside the jocks room. And, of course, guys, we have to stay healthy. Vitamin C packets as well.
Oh, I thought it was the Doritos that he had stashed up there.
Are those M&Ms up there, too?
I think there's peanut M&Ms, right? There's a whole giant bag of them.
You want some snacks?
Yeah, bring some back for us if Tyler doesn't mind. He had a good Keeneland meat. He can replace it. Yeah, there you go.
There's protein in there.
Yeah.
Peanuts, come on.
Looking ahead, a big moment for all the entrants in the 14 championship races over 2 days at the Breeders' Cup. It is the post position draw. It is on Halloween Day. It's coming up this Monday, October 31st, going to be at Rupp Arena. If you can't be there, you've got our coverage brought to you by Root & Riddle Equine Hospital. But we encourage you, if you're in town, go. It's completely free. The draw from 2:30 Eastern Time to 4:30 Eastern Time. Doors at Rupp Arena open at 2 p.m. We started at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, but in truth, our entire crew was out much earlier. Andy Biancone and Cinch watching the workouts up close and then doing some Tai Chi with the background there of the sun coming up. And then we took a van ride. Gabby got dead, and then she got Spilkus sprayed all over her. Thank you for the sacrifices you make, Gabby, for this show. And thank you to everyone who participated on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup here on FanDuel TV.